Oh my God, it's happening! It's coming! I think I'm dying! Feel scared and excited!
Blood alone moves the wheels of history.
Okay. I do get nervous. That's why I like that intro, because I actually am nervous every time I have to go on. It's why I like to stream with other people, because sometimes they can talk and I don't always have to be the center of attention. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out from Q&A. I was going to do it at 50K and I had stuff going on in the spring, and then it was supposed to be 60, which was a couple weeks ago, and now we're at 64, which is incredible. So we're going to call it 60K. I really appreciate you guys coming out to hang out with me. I have Mrs. Owen with me. So if you have any questions for her, she'll be here to answer questions. She can't get away because she has a torn meniscus. So she's sitting right over there and can shout out answers to anything that you might want to ask. Yeah, you know, I can shoot a lot of random people. Before we get going, and I make some small talk for a minute while everybody gets settled in, I just want to tell you guys thank you so much. Those of you that are watching right now, or if you watch this later on, it's not lost on me that your time is a limited resource and you choose it to spend with me sometimes. And I really appreciate that. You watch my videos, or you're here streaming with me, or you're commenting, or whatever it is that you're doing. You're spending your time. You could be doing something else and you're hanging out with me instead. And I really appreciate that. The channel doesn't grow if you guys don't watch, if you guys don't engage. And without you, there is no channel. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I started watching, I didn't get all the way through the first episode of Rings of Power today. I tried to watch a little bit of it, but I was trying to get this slideshow together. I want to be all professional because Echo is professional and it makes me feel better about myself. I don't know if any of you guys have watched it yet today. It is extremely, extremely boring. And it's super dark. I think I know what Game of Thrones fans are feeling with whatever battle that was in season 8. The whole 20 minutes of the first episode is so dark. I thought there was something wrong with my phone. I was trying to watch it and I can barely make out what's going on screen. And I think I was half an hour into it. Thus far, Galadriel is having an argument with the king or something. And something that I'm noticing now, because I'm trying to pay attention to different things in these shows, something that I'm noticing in this show in particular is the music is great because it's the only thing that's doing any work on screen whatsoever. As they were sort of going through Sauron's background, or as Galadriel was chasing after Elrond for some reason, I haven't gotten far enough to figure out why, the music is trying to get you to feel things that you otherwise would not feel on screen at all. Like there's nothing to care about with these characters, or there's no tension with the whole fall of Sauron before the first season started thing. But the music almost makes you feel like you should feel that. It's kind of crazy. And I'm trying to pay attention to the costumes now because I thought they looked good. We both thought they looked good in the first season. And a lot of people disagree with me on that. They said, no, they look cheap. And I think I just don't know what I'm looking for as far as costuming goes. I thought they looked fine. I really need to look into that to see what makes a good costume, what doesn't. I'm sure a lot of people said if I watch the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings, that I will then, if I watch them side to side, that there will be such a stark difference that I could never, ever be confused ever again. So I'm going to keep doing that. I got to watch the rest of Rings of Power this weekend and get a video up Monday. I don't think that one's going to do real well, but I'm going to make it just for the first 3 episodes. But I don't think anybody cares anymore. I think Rings of Power is one of those things. It's the second season of these really bad shows. Like they're not even fun. Nobody even wants to crap on them. Nobody wants to hate watch them. Nobody wants to watch YouTubers hate watch them. It's like Velma. The first season was incredible for YouTubers. It was so shocking. Everybody was morbidly curious as to, did they really do this to Scooby-Doo? Did they really make Daphne a drug dealer? Did they really make Fred a prepubescent boy with no hair and a small penis? Like, I think the curiosity of how could it possibly be this bad led people to watch things about it. And then by season 2 of Velma, no one cared anymore. And I think Rings of Power is going to be the exact same way. People couldn't believe that Tolkien's legacy could be screwed up so badly as with season 1. So they tuned in. They were like, how could you mess this up so badly? he had so many notes. He has volumes and volumes of information about what Middle Earth should be like. How did you screw it up? But I think season 2, nobody's going to care because they're like, oh, right, Rings of Power, that show that's terrible and is not really. We're not even going to call it canon. But I'm going to watch it anyway. It's very boring so far. As I said, it's just a whole lot of nothing. There's for a show that's trying to do so much, it spends a long time on scenes that aren't doing anything, just really long still shots or shots that are drawn out several seconds longer than they need to be. And when you pile that up over the run length of an entire episode, you end up with like an extra 5-10 minutes of episode that didn't need to be there. And that's why people, I think, are feeling very, very bored. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming in, getting more people in here. I'll finish up Rings of Power more over the weekend. What's crazy is I'm not even excited to make fun of it. It's that boring. That's what's really, we're in a bad place with entertainment when things are so boring that they're not even fun to talk bad about. They're not so bad that they're good. They're not entertainingly bad. They're just bad. I got to get back to doing work because that video game Black Myth Wukong came out last weekend, and I have been wanting to play that a lot. There's a bunch of, I haven't waded into the controversy about that one. I know there was a bunch of controversy with IGN and something about a mistranslation, and they tried to call the developer sexist or something. Thus far, it's just great. It's a lot of fun. It's got some critiques, it's got some issues, but overall, I'm having a great time with that one. And I said I was going to go back and play Dark Souls 2, and I am doing that. And it's not nearly as bad as I remember. What's really something interesting for those of you like Dark Souls, if you go back and play the old ones, they feel wildly slow. Like I'm playing Dark Souls 2 right now and I'm having the easiest time, probably because I've just played that company's games a lot and their formula is pretty standard at this point. And I'm playing this game wondering how I ever had a hard time with it because I feel like every move is so telegraphed. Everything moves so slow. It's crazy. Some comments here. Yeah, I wish I could be like this, Brew, and just make fun of stuff off the cuff. I don't know if he scripts his videos. It doesn't feel like he scripts them, right? I tried to do that once with Wheel of Time. I tried to do like he does and just make fun of him, and I got mad, and that was not a great video. It was the opposite of love is on hate's indifference. Yeah, 100%. I just think everybody is indifferent to Rings of Power at this point. It's like I said, it's not fun. Silver Twist back past midnight. Well, if you watch later, I got a couple of at least one question I remember you asked, so I will answer that later. I really appreciate you guys being in here. Got Spencer here, Dark Box here from Brazil. Thank you very much. So, as I said, Mrs. Owen is here. So if you do ever have questions about her, she's a real person. She just doesn't want me to show her on camera. Can you say something? Because I don't think people think you're real.
I do.
Louder. All right. She's real. She just goes to a different school. You guys don't know her. Yeah, he can't be scripted. And I wish that I could do that. I wish that I could just be funny without thinking about it first. And I can't. Mrs. Owen does not play games with me. She's not a big video game fan. Yeah, she likes to watch me. Here's the thing. We have a dynamic that I'm not sure a lot of people are familiar with. It's pretty unique. She likes to read books and I like to play video games. And I know that that's pretty uncommon. A lot of you are like, wow, how could that ever possibly work? But that's what we do. And it works really, really well. So she watches me and I hear about her books and sometimes we cross over a little bit, but no, she's not a big fan. I think the last time we played video games together was that Child of Light game, which was a decade ago. So that's the last time we did it. Child of Light is a fun game if you have someone that doesn't like video games, but they just want to participate, because the second person just makes a little fairy hover over people to slow them down. So they don't really have to do much, but they feel like they're a part of it. It's a lot of fun. So I've got some questions. If you guys have any, you can put them in the chat. Are you watching this? Okay, so she'll monitor the chat if you guys have extra ones. But right now I have slides. I try to be professional in everything. First questions are not even questions. People just being nice, asking me how are things going, and things are going great. Honestly, in the Owen house, things are fantastic. Other than the torn meniscus and a few personal, well, I got some other drama going on, but It's a sidebar thing. For the most part, all of our kids are healthy. We're healthy. Everything in the Owen house is quite well. It's busy with YouTube and work and kids, and we're running around doing a lot of stuff, but honestly, nothing to complain about. As Joe Walsh said, I can't complain. Sometimes I still do, but it's yeah, things are going great, and I'm doing very, very well. The channel is doing well, which always puts me in a good mood. So, oh, somebody wants to know about Stormlight. Write that down. I'll answer that in a bit. Yeah. So now the question is, how do I? Because I feel like everybody else does this. I literally just made this slideshow because I was on BSUP the other day, and they had like slides. Echo has slides. In the past, I've just shared one of my screens because I'm low tech like that. Oh, here, there's a button right on there. All right. So thank you guys for asking me how I'm doing. I do appreciate that. And again, thank you to all of you that are showing up. So I got these questions here about my all-time favorite movies or favorite, especially people want to know favorite non-Disney, non-DreamWorks movies. Because I feel like when you're talking about family movies, those are the ones that you go with. My favorite movie is Emperor's New Groove. And I don't, Liv laughed at me about that. She can't believe that that's my favorite movie. I always come back to Emperor's New Groove. I don't know what it is about it. I've never really stopped to think about it, but whenever I want to watch a movie, it's Emperor's New Groove. If I'm walking through the living room and the kids are watching it, I'm done doing whatever it is that I was doing. I don't sit because I am a father, so I stand in the back of the living room so that I can pretend like I'm about to do something, but I will stand there for 30 or 40 whole minutes and watch Kuzco and his antics ensue. But as far as that's my all-time favorite movie. Thank you for Flameman for that one. Now, Philip asked what my favorite adventure film is, and this was difficult because I had a hard time quantifying what an adventure film is. My first thought was Ocean's 11, and I think some people will say that's a heist film. It's not really an adventure, but I wasn't sure if are we talking Indiana Jones, like going on an adventure? Because if that's the case, then I will go with The Mummy. Brendan Fraser. That's an absolute classic. I feel like that fits more in line with the adventure movie. But I think that Danny Ocean went on an adventure of friendship, and he found a pot of gold at the end. So I think Ocean's 11 counts. I'm going to go with that. But if you don't like it, that's okay. Mummy. Now, people ask me what my favorite non-Disney, non-DreamWorks movies are. And this is difficult. Actually, I sat with Liv and I was trying to figure out because I have all these kids, so we watch a lot of DreamWorks and Disney. And at this point, I can't remember what other movies exist. And also, when I read these questions about what my favorite movies are, I suddenly forgot every movie that has ever existed. So I had to take some time to remember what films ever exist. Like when people ask what your favorite music is. One of my favorite movies, and I don't know, there are parts of this that are not super suitable for younger kids, but I think if you have like some tweens or teens, you should watch About Time with Domhnall Gleeson and who's the other one? Rachel McAdams. I always get her confused with another actress. Domhnall Gleeson, Rachel McAdams, About Time. It is a fantastic. It's got Bill Nighy in it also. Excellent movie. And it's a really fun life lesson about cherishing your time, cherishing your life, making the most out of things, enjoying the moment while they happen. There are a couple, I think there's some sexual innuendo and dialogue in there. So like I said, younger kids, you might be uncomfortable with that, but that's a fantastic movie. An older one that I love, Much Ado About Nothing. Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. Denzel Washington, Keanu Reeves, Kenneth Branagh, who plays, I can't ever remember her name. No, I just looked up the other day. I always forget these people's names. I'm so bad about it, and she won't tell me now. You're not even on camera, and you're camera shy.
I can't think of her name.
Now I'm just going to look it up. No, now we're doing it. Much Ado About Nothing is such a fun movie. It's
Emma Thompson.
Yes, Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
As Beatrice. She's so good. That's a fantastic movie. It's actually funny. Michael Keaton is hilarious in that movie. It's wonderful. Also, the Spider-Verse movies. The first two are excellent. I know a lot of people don't like the second one as much. I feel like maybe that's because the second one had so much hype because the first one. I don't know. I like them both. I'm so excited for the third one. It was supposed to come out in March, and I'm mad that did not happen. But the Spider-Verse movies are great. Princess Bride is always a classic. You can watch that with everybody. Your kids can enjoy that one. This is not, I feel like this is cheating because this person wanted non-Disney, non-DreamWorks. So I'm going to go with Illumination, which I feel like is close, but whatever. You didn't specify. All the Despicable Me movies are excellent, especially Rise of Gru, because it's set in the 70s. Somebody asked me a question later on about my favorite music. It's the 70s. And that one has great music. The Minions. The Minions movie is in the 70s. That one's really good. Rise of Gru is really good. A lot of good music in those. And an underrated one, a lot of people have not heard of this movie, and I'm going to actually do a whole video about underrated Christmas movies in December. Klaus. You can find this on Netflix. It's a reimagined how Santa Claus came to be. A guy that gets sent to this remote island as a punishment, and then he works with a guy. They start delivering toys to kids. It's all for selfish reasons, but it turns into selflessness, and it's like the what if beginnings of Santa Claus. Klaus is fantastic. Klaus. It's on Netflix. You've got to watch it. It's a family favorite. We all love it. December 1st, we watch that. That's a tradition. Klaus is fantastic. And Sadia Mariam asked me what my favorite movie is from a writing standpoint. I'm going to make a whole hour-long video, maybe hour and a half. I'm going to try my hand at long-form stuff going forward. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Puss in Boots 2. The writing in that movie is fantastic. Like, from a technical writing standpoint, that is an excellent movie. The intro is super efficient. Lets you know everything you need to know. Introduces the characters, not in an exposition info dump kind of way. Every scene is used to tell you something about the world or the characters. They managed to fit 3 antagonists in this movie, multiple protagonists. Everybody has a fully fleshed out story. We have multiple themes being told at the same time, both with positive and negative examples from the protagonist, antagonist. It's a fun movie. It'll make you cry, but just from a writing standpoint, it's beautifully written. It's outstanding. You got to watch Puss in Boots too. And lastly, this person asked, thanks for the fostering advocacy. I'm happy to do that. And we cover the non-Disney movies there. You guys all need to go watch Puss in Boots too. And that is DreamWorks, so I feel like I cheated on that one. But somebody asked me what I think regarding the TikTok, my feelings on how TikTok has affected society. I mean, I'm almost 40, so all my takes are getting boomerish, but TikTok is like mental cancer. It's terrible. I think it's destroying all of our attention spans, and Instagram, I think, is the same way. YouTube Shorts is trying to be that way. I think the only positive thing that we can take from TikTok is that I think everybody now has a better idea of what addiction is like. Years ago, when I started, we were into fostering, and there are, questions they ask you. Are you okay sending kids back home? And I was already kind of prejudgy with the bio parents. So I'm like, hey, your kids are in the system. You're obviously not great. And I couldn't wrap my head for a long time around, like, how could people put anything over their kids? I love my kids so much. How could you possibly be addicted to something when your kids are suffering? And I just didn't really have a good conception of what addiction is like. And I think short form social media is the greatest lesson in addiction, mass lesson in addiction, that any of us have ever had. Because if you go look for studies on this stuff, everybody hates it. If you can find 1,000 man on the street interviews, you can find actual scientific studies where people are asked, are you on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, short form type media? Are you on social media? And 90+% of respondents say yes. And then the follow-up question is, do you wish it was never invented? And almost 100% of people also say, yes, I wish this didn't exist, but I can't stop doing it. And if that's not the best lesson in what addiction is like, people that are on drugs, addicted to alcohol, whatever, they know it's bad for them and they can't stop. And I think the rest of us are like, well, just stop. Just stop doing it. But then how many of us can't quit looking at reels throughout the day, even though we know it's bad? So I think it's terrible. But if more people look at it that way, I think the understanding of what the addiction mindset is like, it demonstrates that just to an absolute T. Are there any that I should every now and then stop and?
I mean, do you want them as they're coming in, or how do you?
Give me a couple.
Okay, so favorite Stormlight arc that's a great one. Who's your favorite
Stormlight? Well, my favorite Stormlight character is Lopen, and this is Lopen's fan. I like Brandon Sanderson's comic relief. If this is about the Stormlight Archive series of books, it's a book series by Brandon Sanderson. This guy gets all my money. I recently just bought an RPG, or not a tabletop RPG from him, whatever the highest tier was. I'm going to have books and miniatures, and I'm not going to play the game. I don't care. I'm just going to display it. It's going to be gorgeous. I don't even know what the rules are. I don't even know what kind of game it is. I don't care. I'm never going to play it. There's a Dungeon Master screen. It's going to be in my studio. It's going to look beautiful. It'll be next year probably when it gets sent out. But he's a great fantasy author, and I don't think Lopen has like a journey, but I do like
a little bit. Don Shard, they get into him a little more.
Yeah. I think my actual favorite arc is Shallan. So in December, if you guys are not into fantasy books, in December, the 5th book in this series is going to come out, and it's going to be a 10-book series, and they are massive books. So it is, I understand that some people find it a little overwhelming because they're huge, but these are excellent stories. And most of the characters just represent mental illness, honestly. And Shallan has multiple personalities. And in the most recent book, how she deals with those personalities is very interesting. I like the direction that is going a lot. And Lopen is great comic relief. What about you?
Yeah, not for me all the way.
Yeah. What about Yasna?
You have to repeat what I think they can't hear me.
Yeah.
Can't hear me. So I don't know. She's my favorite character by far. I want to dig into her past more. I want to know everything she knows and everything she's discovering about what's going on. So yeah.
So her favorite is Yasna. That is the daughter of the queen, and she is kind of a pariah in the story because she is an agnostic. She's non-religious. She's super studious and is kind of condescending to people because she's really smart, but also has a bit of a soft side. She's a very, very good character as well. Any more?
Resident Evil favorite character.
I have not played the Resident Evil games. I am a large man, and I don't like scary stuff. I know that's a weird contradiction. I don't like to play horror games. I remember playing Resident Evil a long time ago, the first one. I have not played those, and I've heard they're really good. I'm a big scaredy cat. Keep track of a few more of those. I'm going to get to these slides. How do you reconcile fantasy and religion? And do I play D&D? This is an excellent question because it's a difficult line to walk when biblically people are, biblically says sorcery, magic. These are wrong. And there are a lot of social issues that as Christians we're like, those social issues are bad. But then a lot of us read fantasy, and I can see how a person would look at that and say, well, this thing is not biblical. This thing is. Why are you okay with one, not the other? For me, I think the reason that I'm okay with fantasy, and I think a lot of people are okay with it, is because fantasy, if it gets into actually trying to glorify like magic, witchcraft, something of that effect, that's where you want to put the brakes on it. But fantasy is not all about magic. It's about fantastical elements. And typically fantasy is a blank canvas to look at humanity, to look at new ideas, to look at human behavior. So if there's a fantasy that's really glorifying, like I said, magic use or something, or trying to give you the impression that that's something that you should do or pursue, that I would call wrong. But I've not run across a story that does that. It's just an element of the storytelling. However, if there are people out there that don't like the people that don't like to read Harry Potter, I don't agree with that, but I also understand it. I get it. Like if a person says, hey, biblically, you're not supposed to have sorcery, so why are you reading Harry Potter? And I would say, well, if you don't want to read it, I would never argue with somebody about that. But I just don't think that it's trying to tell you that it's a good thing. It's just using it to tell a story and explore human ideas, which is why that's how I reconcile it. I do play D&D with my kids, or I did. Since I've been making videos a lot more, it has been very difficult to find time for that because I am the dungeon master for them. And so making the maps and all the possible stories, coming up with all of the enemy tables and all that stuff, it's a lot. And my kids are pretty busy. So on Saturdays are pretty much the only day that we would have to do it. And Saturday mornings, they all want to sleep in now. And then by Saturday afternoon, we're all busy. We're doing stuff, we're cleaning the house. We have things to do. So finding 2 or 3 hours to sit down and play D&D is very difficult. And that's one of the other reason that I like European board games like Settlers of Catan, or recently I bought Terra Mystica, which is a lot of fun. But those are into the same problem. You need a good 2-hour chunk of time to play one of those games. And we don't have it. And we have little kids around here too. So you're trying to play D&D, you're trying to roll dice, you're trying to describe a scene or whatever, and I've got a 4-year-old running around, she's hollering, or I try to include my younger kids. It's probably been a year and a half since we've played, and what I would try to do is get the younger boys to play, and they didn't really have a character sheet. They would just be an animal or something, so they could just come and go at will, and they would be part of the combat, and I would just hand them like a D6 or something, and just, here you go, roll that. Yeah, you did damage, great. And then they would get bored and run off, and then it wouldn't affect the story. But I would love to get back to it, but it's very, very difficult to find the time. Yeah, the day job is rough. If I could do YouTube full time, boy, I would do well. I would just play a lot of video games. I know that's what I would do. Okay, this person had a couple questions. Nick Johnson had a couple questions. In my postmodern video, which I did last year, which I'm going to redo because there are some issues with the video, and this question brings up one of them. I was talking about subversion, how postmodernists like to subvert things. They want to go a different way, and there's a big push right now for villainless movies because there's a lot of moral relativism involved with postmodernism, and so there's a huge push right now for villainless movies or villain redemptions or whatever. And I use the example of Encanto. I gotta pick one. Encanto. I'm going with a Midwestern. Just embrace it. I used Encanto because it doesn't have a villain, but it was a really bad example because there is a conflict. There is an antagonist, and it's family expectation. And that example was super duper weak, and I shouldn't have used it. Especially since I made it last fall, I should have used Elemental because there's no villain, and there's also no real antagonist in that movie. They try to make it like society doesn't want them to be together, but then they are. Like, elements don't mix, but then they do. It was so poorly executed, and I should not have used Encanto. And that's one of the reasons I want to redo that video. One, because I have a new set, and I have better microphone, and I like that video. I just think that it was my first longer form. I think it's 45 minutes. That's the first time I ever made a video that length, and I think that one could be polished up. So it was a bad example, but if a story can't have one, this person wants to know, what do they do to compensate? I think the biggest thing is you just have to have a conflict. And one of the difficulties with villainless movies is sometimes the conflict feels very arbitrary or contrived. A good example, and I've already mentioned this one, but About Time has no villain, and yet it has a very good conflict because time is really the villain of that movie, the endless march of time, and our tendency to not appreciate things until they're gone. These are all major themes in that movie, and it's beautifully told, and there's no villain. It's just the unstoppable progress of entropy is the villain of that movie. And it's really well done. But the second follow-up question, they asked about a quote from Injustice 2, that every villain is the hero of their own story, and how it's a good way to incorporate that message into a movie or game. Well, I'm glad they said game, because an excellent example of this in the game Borderlands 2, the villain is Handsome Jack, and he's horrible. He's diabolical. Terrible, terrible person. And he believes that he's a good guy. He thinks that everything he's doing is for the betterment of the planet and all the people. And he's sort of a crazy, benevolent psycho. Like, he'll kill people, but he thinks it's a good thing. You're the main character of the game. He calls you a bandit. He calls you a thief. He really does, up until the very end of the game, believes that he is the good guy and everything he's doing is right. And he's also a little crazy, which I think is an excellent way to go about that. Because if you are a person that's doing these horrible, horrible things, and he kills people, he's terrible, terrible villain. And if you believe that you're the good guy, you got to be a little cracked to think that. Hold on just a second. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, please. I made coffee right before I started, and I didn't have time to make it myself, or make my own cup. So I think he was a really good way to go about that, because he's a little crazy, and I think you have to be a little crazy to believe that about yourself. He's, I think, one of the better villains in all of video games. He's fantastic. He's funny, but he's also a complete psycho, but his motives make sense. It was really, really well done. The other way I think that a villain has to, be the hero of their own story. I like stories where the villain knows that what they're doing is sort of wrong, but also this usually works if the villain is like hyper intelligent and they sort of logic their way into thinking, well, I have to do this. There's no other way. Usually you'll see this in like AI type movies. I think Was it iRobot? No, what was the one with Will Smith? And the guy kills himself at the very beginning. I have something. It was, a robot movie, 3 laws, they can't break them, but then a robot finds a way to break them, and it eventually becomes, because the robot is like, well, to protect you, I have to enslave you, sort of thing, along those lines. But it was an iRobot? Yeah, that's what I thought. So I like when, along those lines, I think it's a little overdone with the technology angle. So I do like it better when it's a person and they know that what they're doing is not great temporarily, but it's, the ends justify the means kind of thing. I was watching a video once on writing, and it was Aaron Sorkin who was talking, the writer behind West Wing, which is excellent. And his advice to aspiring writers was that every villain needs to see themselves that way. A villain should never see themselves as a villain. A villain, he said, it should always be able to justify themselves, or they should always have a good reason for what they're doing or whatever. Because if the villain knows they're horrible, then you have kind of a weak character. But if they agree that maybe some of their actions are bad, but they have good reasons and they can justify themselves, then he was saying that's a very good villain. That's what you want to see. Somebody want to know if I've ever read stories from the old Star Wars Expanded Universe. I have not. And bad television is making me want to read these books. I have too many books going on right now, but I'm going to. I started reading The Silmarillion recently, which I took a break on because I'm going to watch Rings of Power, and I want to watch it without knowing what it should be, because I think the reviews will be funnier if I'm not mad about how bad it is. I can just have a better time not knowing what's going on. But as far as Star Wars goes, I really want to read. I've heard about this book, Brotherhood, which apparently takes place in the Clone Wars. And I guess that's supposed to expand on the Obi-Wan Anakin relationship. I hear that title thrown around a lot, so I feel like that's a super popular one. And that's what I want to go with. And I also want to read, I'm told there's a trilogy of books dealing with the big names, the big Darth names, Darth Bane, Darth Tenebrous, and Darth Plagueis. I think that there were 3 books along that line, and I would like to read those as well, because during the Acolyte, especially after the Plagueis reveal, I saw online everywhere people saying, please don't do Plagueis. It's such a great story, so amazing. So now I kind of want to know. What that's about. I'll probably have to listen to it. Yeah, my trouble is I can't take on, my TBR is too long as it is. I have behind me a bunch of books that I'm attempting to read right now. I have been having a hard time sleeping, and I realize it's because I usually edit until I go to bed. And for some reason, staring at a screen for 2 hours and then immediately trying to lay down, it's not working so well. Who'd have thought? So over there, I've been reading The Witcher, the first Witcher book, Last Wish, and that's really, really a lot of fun. And I've also been reading and listening to some philosophy for a video that I have coming up. I think the title of that one is going to be What Flavor of Horrible Are We Living In, or something to that effect. And at first I was just going to compare 1984 and Brave New World, because they both are sort of dystopian futures, but one is a very negative, authoritarian, Big Brother, 1984, all that, very bad. Brave New World is shown to be a bad future, but everybody's very happy. Everybody's on drugs. Everybody is grown in a test tube to love the life that they're assigned, but it's all painted very poorly, and yet the people are loving it. And I was going to kind of go back and forth between those two. Like, are we living in a very positive bad future or a very negative bad future? And what inspired me to do that was I picked up this other short philosophy book called The Burnout Society. And the author there is making this case that we are suffering from too much positivity, that we have too many good things to eat, too many good things to watch. Really, what we have is a lack of purpose in our lives, because there's no struggle. Everything's too good. And in that book, he referenced Michel Foucault's Discipline and Punish. And he was making the argument that Discipline and Punish states that we live in a negative world of prisons, hospitals, schools. That was his whole bit, that, power is being exercised over us in a very authoritarian kind of way. Even if we're outside the prison, we live in a mental prison. That's the way society is designed. That was Foucault's whole bit. And I'm working through that right now. And again, I want to contrast those two ideas. Like, are we really trapped in this negative world of prisons and schools? Or, as the author of Burnout Society says, are we not that? Are we trapped in a Are we entertaining ourselves to death? I think that's the title of a good book as well. Are we trapped in a prison of our own pleasures? And I think I don't know if I'll have time for it, but I also want to read Fahrenheit 451. And then there was another book called The Circle, and sort of, again, same type of thing. Are we lacking information because the information is being burnt, or are we lacking information because everybody's stupid because we're chronically online? So I'm hoping that turns out really well. And those things are taking up all of my time. And what else? Oh, my wife wanted me to read the 5th season by...
It's just an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it's really good so far. It's a new fantasy author. It's called the 5th season. Now it's going to bot. See, then this is the other thing that the internet has kind of messed us all up. There used to be a time when I would have a question and I wouldn't know the answer, and then I would just immediately forget it. And now if I don't look it up, it causes me, I wouldn't say physical pain. NK Jemison.
Solidly answering all your questions.
The chat knows.
The
chat knows everything. So I'm halfway through the 5th Element, and I'm really enjoying it. There's an interesting magic system in this one. There are multiple perspectives. The reason that she wanted me to write it is because one of the characters is written in the first person. So the book is you this, you that, you do this, you think that. But then the other 2 stories are written in the third person, and we're, very traditional narrating, reading about them. So that's what she was telling me is, just this cool perspective. And as I'm reading them, I'm liking the world that they're building. I'm liking the magic system they have going on. I'm interested to see where things go. I am starting to think that one of the stories has got to be taking place in the past. It has to be.
No one tell him. Because
the book opens with the city being destroyed, but then half the book is in the city. I can't even look at your face because you're going to give it away. You don't have a good poker face. But I'm actually very interested to see where it goes now. So yeah, that's a good one. 5th season. I'm reading that one. Oh my God, Discipline and Punish, Silmarillion. I want to get back into the Cradle books to finish with the boys. It's just, I got Witcher over here, Burnout Society. It's too many books. But I do want to read the Star Wars books. And what kind of sci-fi would I read as a fantasy fan? I like anything. So I like fantasy because I like high fantasy. I like big epic worlds. I want a big world that gets built. So that is what I enjoy. So I liked Ender's Game. I would read more of those. I like Dune, same reason, big interplanetary thing going on, big epic scale, brand new society, new rules for this society, that sort of thing. I mean, Dune feels very much like a fantasy book. It's just sci-fi. I think I would like Star Wars for the same reason. I think in one of my videos, I mentioned that I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I like fantasy. And I had a bunch of comments that were like, Star Wars, it's space wizards. What are you talking about? And I was like, you know what? I've never thought of it that way, but yes, that it is fantasy. It's just with laser swords. So I do think that I would like those. And I also like this young adult book called Scythe. And I would call that sci-fi because that's a dystopian future where everybody's immortal. And so there's a group of people that have to kill citizens because everybody lives forever. And so the population can't be caused to grow too much. And it's not like a hugely philosophical book, but it is an interesting look into what would people act like if they lived for 400 years. And then what would they treat death like if it wasn't a normal thing? It's pretty cool book. You got more?
So somebody asked a movie that disappointed you on rewatch with the kids, and I thought you might want to tell your story about what's the karate movie that you wanted to watch.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. So first of all, I want you to think about this right here. What's your favorite topic that I have covered? My buddy Spencer was just excited that I'm over 60,000. He's my friend in real life, and I really appreciate that.
Like being so complimentary about your growth. So thank you,
everyone. I really appreciate it. And everybody's so kind in every comment all the time. Like the comment sections are always super nice. That's why I don't respond to negative. Like there's always trolls, but I'm not wasting time with that. I have people that really have nice things to say. The question was, sorry, I got sidetracked because I have
movie that disappointed you on rewatch with the kids.
Okay, so on Netflix, there's a really cool show called The Who Was Show. And it's like a little fun history. It's like a sketch comedy thing. And one of the running gags for a long time is it's a bunch of teenagers that are doing the sketch comedy, and they play different historical figures. And then there's this adult that sort of is a bumbling idiot that's sort of managing them. And he keeps wanting to get Bruce Lee on the show. He's obsessed with it. I really want to get Bruce Lee on. And the kids were like, who's Bruce Lee? And I was like, Bruce Lee's amazing. He is a karate master and he makes incredible movies. And one of them is called Enter the Dragon. And I loved it as a kid. And we're going to watch it right now. We're going to watch Enter the Dragon, kids. And I remember watching that as a kid and it was awesome. There was cool karate fights. Bruce Lee kicks the bad guy's butts. The guy tries to attack him with a claw hand thing. His hand comes off and he has different hands. What I did not remember, is the fact that the bad guy was running a drug empire. He had illegal prostitution. The prostitutes were drugged up because he was selling drugs out of the island. The movie opens with a woman guys trying to kidnap her so they can traffic her, and she takes her own life rather than be caught up in the trafficking. There's a bunch of nudity. People are graphically murdered. And I'm like, what? I don't remember any of this. Like, I remember, so we turned it on and it was rated R. And I was like, oh, well, this was in the 70s. People had different ideas of what should be rated R. There's just, there's a lot of karate action. There's a little violent. Probably people get bloodied up. That's probably why this is. Maybe people use foul language. And we're watching it and I'm just like, I've made a terrible mistake. And one or two things happened and I was like, okay, I don't remember that, but must just be one or two little things. And stuff kept happening and we turned it off. That's one that I regret on a rewatch. Big time. That was bad. We've never tried it again. You know another one?
No. Percy Jackson season 2, Anime Underworld. You need to get with him. You guys can do another live stream.
Yeah, I don't know when that's coming out. My kids didn't like that one. I didn't love that one. It's all right. Percy Jackson was okay. Yeah, I think I must have watched. I think I must have watched a edited like a TV edited version or something. Oh, so Russ is giving me 2 super chats. Thank you very much, Russ Cole. Agreement, what's up, transphobe? I think that's a nice thing to say because I've said some things that have gotten me called that before. Here to deliver a bribe requested in future videos. You work in that clip from The Sopranos where Tony yells, "Get back in your effing hole now." Honestly, I could have used that in the Acolyte video because there was a lot of jokes about the hole, but that's all right. And then he also gave me $20, $30 now. Thank you, sir. Turn on TTS for super chat so I can try to sneak swears and slurs past the YouTube auto mod. No, I'm going to leave it on, and then you have to be creative to get the slurs in. That's half the fun. Arthur Itis wants to know where my meandering mugs are. Now, Arthur leaves comments in a lot of videos, and he leaves me poems, and they're hilarious. First of all, every one of them has to do with my number of kids, and then he writes like a rhyming poem. They're funny every time. And he suggested a long time ago that I start selling mugs, like start selling merch, because I described something as a meandering mess one time. That's a phrase I got to use more often. He wants to know when I'm going to start selling those. One day soon, perhaps. All right. Saiyan Warrior of Equestria. Now I'm picturing Goku beating up ponies. Do you and your wife ever significantly disagree on a movie or show? Yes. We absolutely do. The number one thing is in terms of comedy. I'm a guy. I do like guy comedy. I like Monty Python. She won't watch Monty Python with me. I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine with my buddy Jeff. She did not want to go see Deadpool at all. Like dumb guy humor. She's like, no, I don't want any part of that. I think the only time, we know that. So we don't really disagree on that much because we've known that for a long time. She's not into slapstick, silly humor. But I did have her watch Mad Max with me, the new one with Tom Hardy. She hated that movie. Hated. The thing is, she doesn't like when people in movies are consistently filthy and don't clean themselves. It bothers her greatly. Like you could at least just try to wipe. Like, so when people are just constantly, she could never watch Walking Dead. When people like dystopian movies don't work for her because everybody's just filthy all the time. She doesn't like that one. Did not like Mad Max. I was enamored with Mad Max. I loved it. And she was like, this is probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why do you like this? So yeah, anything I think that if you would categorize it as like super dude stuff, dude comedy or dude action or whatever, we're probably not going to agree on that one. What's it like being a family man and YouTuber? It is very busy. And the only way, and this will come up in a couple other questions, the way I make it work is I loop everybody in. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't cover because I try to watch as much stuff with my kids as possible so that I can be doing my job and we can hang out together at the same time. So there are some things that I've really wanted to watch in full and review. I really wanted to see Fallout. I haven't watched Fallout yet. I wanted to watch all of Shogun with everybody, but there's a lot in there that I couldn't watch. So there are a lot of things that I miss out on because I would have to go watch them alone or the two of us. And so I try to loop everybody in. I'm working on an Avatar video right now. It's going to take forever because my kids are the ones that got me into that show. It's really, really good. And my oldest daughter wants to be a writer. She's very into writing. She is into the technicalities of writing, what makes a good character, what makes good themes, all that kind of stuff. She's really enjoying that. And my second oldest daughter wants to learn how to edit. So we're going to make an Avatar video together. It's going to take a long time because we're going to do it at a group pace, but that's it's very busy. The other issue is my whole family knows a lot of times I just blank out because I'm thinking about scripts all the time. So if I just suddenly start staring off, it's because I just had an idea about a script. My glasses are real. They are not just for show. These are very real. And I think my prescription is getting worse. Do I ever worry about getting too caught up in a critically analyzing a movie to enjoy something? Absolutely. And the last time it happened to me that I can remember is the D&D movie last year. There was a lot of drama around the D&D movie because the directors were in an interview and they said two things that got people riled up. They said, one, we think it's really funny to emasculate men. They said, we really like emasculating men. And that was the headline that ran. And even their actual quote wasn't much better. And they also talked about how studios only want to use known properties. And so they were discussing how to get a movie made, you kind of have to use a known property and sneak in your own ideas. And those two things made me very hostile toward the movie. And when I went to see it, I was looking for things. I was waiting for them to pull the rug out, and I couldn't fully enjoy that movie. And my review of it wasn't as positive. And then we watched it again later, and I was like, what was I don't know why I was mad. This movie is great. I loved it on a rewatch when I wasn't trying to think about how I would review it or whatever. So yes, sometimes overanalyzing stuff. And that's something that's come to mind recently because I did go see Deadpool and Wolverine. It's a terrible movie, guys. It's not a good movie, but it's a great time. It's a lot of fun. The plot of it is dumb, makes no sense, but it's so much fun. The emotional beats they try to cultivate do not land at all, but it's a fun time. And that movie really brought it home for me that sometimes there's too much analyzing, and every now and then you can just have fun, and that's okay. I think a movie is better, obviously, with good themes, with good writing, all of that. Clearly, those are going to be superior movies, but there's also just okay. There's just fun movies. I watched The Crow the other day because I was going to talk about it on BSEP. That is not a great film, not a good movie, but it's full of action and it's a lot of fun, and I had a great time watching it. There were technical critiques you could make, but it's fun, and that's okay. These questions are about being a libertarian, which I am, although I'm not sure I'm going to vote libertarian this year. I had to catch up on that guy. Is it difficult to be a libertarian in the United States, especially with the upcoming elections? And this person lives in Italy. It's not difficult to be a libertarian in America. It's not hard to live or whatever. It's just hard to be understood. I think we're very tribal in America with our two-party system. And so if you tell people one thing, they sort of assume everything else fills in. Like I'm very pro small government, like tiny government. They spend too much money, in my opinion. There are too many regulations, laws, all that kind of stuff. And so if you tell people that, they're like, oh, you're a right winger and here's all the other things that you believe. And it's like, no, that's not correct. You're describing Republicans, which usually they're not even describing them correctly. So I think that's the most difficult part about it is a libertarian shares a little bit of both. And there's also the difficulty is also separating or having to explain and separate your personal beliefs from your legal beliefs. Like biblically, theologically, I'm not in agreement with homosexuality, but then also as a libertarian legally, I'm like, I don't care. I don't give a crap. I think gay marriage, actually, I don't think there should be marriage. There should be marriage licenses. I think that's a trap that the government got us all into. But the point is, I don't really care legally what other people do. Smoke what you want, be with who you want. I don't care. And that's very difficult to get across to people. So that's the only real difficulty of it. Geisha wants to know how many guns I own. 3 3 or 4. They're not at my house at the moment. I haven't gotten them back. When I got licensed to foster, they said you either get rid of all your guns or you have to have 2 cabinets. The ammo's in one, the guns are in the other. They have to be locked. There's a whole bunch of hoops to jump through. And my father-in-law had a gun safe. And I was like, nah, can you hold these? And he said, yeah. So they're at his house. I need to get them back. But no, a good American has guns. My God. Actually, that got me, well, it didn't get me in trouble, but I was on jury duty last week, federal case. And I expressed my discomfort with the case because it was the government versus some guy who got pulled over and had a rifle that he was legally allowed to possess, but apparently, they told us we can. Everything that they explained to us, they were like, yeah, you can talk about it. I guess he had a rifle in his trunk, and it was legal to own. They made that very clear. It was illegal for him to have, but the barrel length was too short. They didn't tell me. I wasn't on jury, so I don't know how short it was. It was just under 16 inches. And he was supposed to have a license for a barrel of that length, but he didn't have the correct license, and that's why he was arrested, and they were charging him. And I was like, I don't. And they said, can you be fair on this? And I was like, I don't think I can, guys. I don't believe that I can, because and I said, what's the measurement? They wouldn't tell me, because I was like, look, if you're saying the measurement is 16 and his barrel was 10 inches or something, like he sawed off a ton of it. All right, well, I can be fair. But if you're telling me it's 15 and a half or 15 and 3/4 and it's supposed to be 16, like, no, I'm not going to be nice about that. And they didn't ask me to come back. So that was probably fine. One more, and then I'll get a couple from you here. These are...
There have been some really good recommendations, though, for books and stuff. I'm writing all of them.
Your TBR is getting longer.
Yeah.
So these ones are interesting because these are about, family life and all that kind of stuff. The person said they really love my videos on the manosphere, and I appreciate that. I like talking about that. I don't do it too much because it doesn't really fit with the theme of YouTube. YouTube kind of wants you to stay in a certain area. So if you step outside, I don't do as much of that stuff anymore because, yes, it was. I didn't say the words Ruby Ridge out loud in the courtroom, but that's exactly what I was thinking. They want to know more insight of how I impart the ideas about why red pill manosphere stuff is bad to my sons in more practical ways, and also how does it impact my parenting of my daughters. These manosphere ideas can impact them as well and skew their ability to perceive value in men as they grow older. So with the boys, and this actually is going to come up in the Leslie Headland video, because since she talks about moral relativism, all that kind of stuff, and people say Star Wars is for 12-year-old boys. That's what everybody always says. With my sons, the number one, I think my number one parenting advice anyone with boys is to just treat them like, you can't treat them like men, but talk to them about the man that they're going to be, because all kids are future adults. They're going to be adults. And honestly, I think we should all see ourselves as older people. Like one day I'm a future retiree, future 60-year-old, whatever. I'm a future grandparent. Like, so I need to conduct myself in a way that leads to the kind of person that I want to be. And that's what I tell my sons when they exhibit poor character. My question is that indicative of the kind of man that you want to be? You lied to me. Are you going to be a man that lies? Are you going to be the kind of man that is known as a liar? The Bible talks about having a good name for yourself, cultivating a good name. So that's another question that we ask the kids. Like, is this cultivating a good name? Will people know you by this action if you commit this all the time? My oldest son is big, and he doesn't do this anymore because I asked him these questions, but sometimes he would kind of bully his younger brothers or wrestle too hard with them or use his older age or whatever to kind of get them to do what he wanted to do. And I would ask him that same question. Are you the kind of man that is going to use your size, because he's going to be big? Are you the kind of man that's going to use your size or your authority or your age or whatever to get people to do what you want to do, to serve yourself? Is that the kind of man that you want to be? And I find that question to be wildly effective with boys, because they want to be viewed as responsible, older. They want to, they want that responsibility for themselves. So that, to me, that's my most practical piece of advice is if you have sons and they do something bad, poor character, you ask them, if you continue to do that, that's the kind of man that you're going to become. Is that what you want to be? What was that?
And that you're fired thing.
Oh, yeah. So when I was growing up, my stepmom she's always worked in food, and she was food management, clubhouse management or restaurant management or whatever. She used to tell me she would fire me. And that was excellent. It was a good line. Like if I was late to school, she would be like, if you work for me, I'd fire you. I don't tolerate people being late all the time. People show up on time or they don't work for me. Or if I would do a chore around the house empty the dishwasher or something and leave all the cabinets open or something like that, she would tell me all the time, I would fire you if you worked for me because your work ethic is terrible. And I won't tolerate someone giving me 70% of a job. And when you get older, you're going to have to work for somebody and they're not going to tolerate it either. And you're going to get fired. You're not going to be able to hold on a job if you show up late, if you give poor performance. So yeah, I think talking to kids about the future person they're going to be, I think that's the way to go. And then as far as with my daughters, I talk to them about these things. Obviously I can't treat them like men, but the number one thing I think is important for your daughters is to be a good husband. Obviously we talk about these things. My oldest daughter is, maybe, she sees boys at youth group and stuff. So we talk about like, what are the ways that a boy should behave? But I think more importantly than the stuff we talk about is the stuff that they see. And I try for their sake to be the best husband that I can be. So hopefully, and I don't know if this is going to work yet, we'll find out soon, but I'm hoping that as they get older, if they're dating some boy or whatever, I'm hoping that they think to themselves, my dad never treated my mom this way. So my mom would not put up with this. I shouldn't put up with this or whatever. So I think as far as the daughters go, yeah, we talk about it, but I think the example is more important to them. Second question, how can I be a more patient husband and dad? I thought about this and I got a terrible answer. I was watching a video one time when I was doing the Manosphere video. I came across a guy, Bedros Keuilian, something to that effect. And he looked like a real douche. And I was watching a video because I'm like, I'm going to get some clips of him saying something stupid. I'm going to put it in this video. And I watched the video and I was like, oh, this guy's actually he's got really good advice. Actually, like he's really not what he looks like. So I've seen a couple of his videos. I don't watch him a ton, but he was doing a video on how to be more disciplined. And he was like, I hate to say it this way, but the way to be more disciplined is to be more disciplined. Like you just have to put physical reminders in front of yourself to do things until it becomes a habit. And I hate this answer, but the way to be a more patient husband and dad and coworker and everything is to be more patient. And that's the stupidest answer. But I think the thing that helps me is I like physical reminders of things. I either put a rubber band on my wrist or something that reminds me of it. I asked my wife this question and she said what she likes to do. Wait, where is it at? I have notes written down here. What she likes to do, because she's home all the time, is she read this advice that especially when you're mad with your kids, look at their hands, was advice that she got, especially right now, my youngest son. We're having, we get in arguments, but he's little. And she said the really good advice she got was look at their hands because their hands are tiny. And it's just a kind of a good reminder that they are little kids and what they're doing is not correct, but it's also not worthy of getting like angry and yelling and all that kind of stuff. I used to have a real problem with that. And that's something that I'm still working on, like not raising my voice too much because I'm a big dude and it's hard to remember sometimes that like my kids are little and yeah, like I'm 6.5 feet tall. Like I'm large. I'm a large human being. And like I weigh 250 pounds. So I'm big. So if I yell at a kid, it's hard. I don't see myself that way is the other thing. I don't think of myself as a really big person because I've just always lived in this body. So it's not something that I keep in mind all the time. And it's difficult to remember that if somebody twice your size was shouting at you in a very loud voice, it would be terrifying. Like you would pee on yourself. It would be horrible. So that I have to keep that in mind. That's something that I continually have to work on because it's really easy to just raise my voice and get what I like. Dad voice works every time, but also it can be used way too much. But she said she looks at their hands to remind herself that they're little, and that's something I'm going to start doing. And then also she said she likes to pray over people as she's going through the house, like folding laundry, like folding that person's laundry. She'll pray for that person to kind of prayer is a really great way to remember that other people matter. Like it's a really great way to get outside yourself. When you're praying for the better for somebody, you're thinking more about them and less about yourself. And that I think is a great tip too. She's got great parenting tips. She thinks about this stuff a lot. She reads about how to be a better parent, how to be a better organized person. She researches that the way I research videos and stuff, like how to be the best mom possible. It's like if she could be bad at parenting like me, it would be much easier for me. And then the bottom one here is how do I balance my life with my faith, family, work, and channel? how do I say, passionate, dedicated to God. Seems like I have a very busy schedule. As I said earlier, what I try to do is I get my kids and family involved as much as possible. So whether, we discuss shows together, we watch shows and movies together, we talk about scripts together, I bounce ideas off of them. I am trying to get my kids to learn how to write with me or edit with me or whatever. Not so much because I need their help, but just because then we can do it together. We go see movies. We try to go see family movies together later this month. I think Wild Robot is coming out. That's going to be the next one that we're going to see. And that's my biggest thing is do everything together. I'm reading later in a couple of months, Angel Studios, the folks that did like Sound of Freedom, Sound of Hope recently, the Possum Trot deal. They did Cabrini earlier. They're going to do a biopic, and I'm going to stick to that pronunciation, on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a German theologian and pastor who was killed by the Nazis. And he wrote this really great book in the 30s called The Cost of Discipleship. And so we're reading that like one chapter a week or one chapter every other week or whatever. They're making notes. We discuss it. So that's how we do it, is we incorporate each other as much as possible. We try to do pack life as much as possible. Like, we're all doing the same thing. We don't divide and conquer. We don't, even when I'm here at my desk writing, the door to my bedroom is like literally right here. So they come and go. Like, I'm not sequestered away. I don't have an office that I work out of or whatever. So I think trying to keep everybody together as much as possible. That's how it works. Do you have more questions?
You've got some good super chat things here. You might want to go back.
So Russ Cole, 40 now. Thank you. Is my daughter still helping edit your videos? And does she help log entries into your book of young people's phrases? None of them are at an age where maybe they
we homeschool.
Yeah, we homeschool. So I don't get a lot of young people phrases from them, thankfully. Well, they get them from YouTube sometimes. The one day, I'm telling my son, we were playing this game called Rounds. And this is on Xbox. And this is a pretty fun game. It's frantic. It's a fun little couch co-op thing. You're a circle and you just shoot at each other. And then every time you lose, you get an extra power up. So you're more powerful. But then, of course, when the other person loses, they get power ups. And we're playing and he's getting excited. And this dude shouts, "Give me those cheeks," as he's shooting me. And I was like, what the hell did you, what? Excuse what? I was like, where did you hear that? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, first of all, don't ever say that again. You don't know what that means. Don't ever say that. But like, yeah, so that stuff comes off of YouTube or something. It's got to be where I was. I've banned several phrases. I banned the phrase yeet. No one's allowed to say yeet in my home. So yeah, I guess I do inadvertently get some young people phrases from them, but only as I hear them too much and I don't want them. And yes, my daughter is helping me edit videos. It's slow going because they have school to do. They have friends to hang out with. I am not great at organizing. So I'm usually making videos last minute. So I don't always have I don't have the time to teach her to edit because it's slower. And I'm usually way too behind because I'm not great at this business wise. For their sake. I think I was talking about the girls at this point. Oh, because I was saying like for their sake to be a better husband. Yeah. Well, I do it for her too. But yes, also for the girls. Yeah. And Celtic Panda wants to know, they're a Sanderson fan, and I believe you stated you're a fan as well. I am. If you could only make one, are you going Mistborn or Stormlight? And do you think they will ever get adapted? I am going to be talking about this in a video next week because I did a little research on this. First of all, I would go Stormlight because there's more comedy to it. Mistborn is a great book and has what I consider to be the best example of the Sanderlanche, like where at the end of Brandon Sanderson's books, all of a sudden a bunch of stuff starts happening. And he doesn't do mystery box storytelling, but there are clues hidden throughout the books. And at the end of his books, all of a sudden, they just start crashing in and everything fits together. And all of this stuff that was right in front of your face, the whole book, all comes into play. And you're just like, how do I not see that? But he doesn't do it in a mystery box way where he dangles it like, ooh, what is this? I'm not going to tell you. Like, there's no J.J. Abrams crap going on here. And it just happens. And I think Mistborn is the best example of that. At the end of the trilogy, a bunch of stuff clicks and I'm like, this was stuff in the first book. And I'm like, how did I not see that? That's brilliant. It was hiding right in plain sight the entire time. However, there's no comedy in that one. It's very dramatic. And it's not my favorite for that reason, because it's very bleak and it's well written, but it's not fun to read, where I think Stormlight is much more fun to read. I do not think that they're ever going to adapt it. I think they're too long. And I'm also a little glad that they're not going to get adapted in the current environment. And I do think that the Wheel of Time show, which for those of you who don't know, the Wheel of Time big long book series started by this guy Robert Jordan. That's not his real name. I don't actually know what his real name is. And then he was dying, and he knew that he was dying, and he had all these notes to finish this massive book series. And they found Brandon Sanderson, who was not a very well-known author at that time, but he was very good. And they said, "Hey, can you help? We're going to finish this series." So he gave Brandon all of his notes, everything, and then Brandon is the one that actually finished that, and that's kind of launched his career. And the Wheel of Time show on Amazon is terrible. Not just a bad adaptation; it is anathema to the theme of the books. It is completely counter to what Robert Jordan was trying to get at, and what the allegories that he was telling. And I think that taught Sanderson how a show gets made and how it gets adapted. And he has said a lot that the shows have been optioned. Mistborn was going to be a show, and it keeps falling apart. It keeps falling through. And he doesn't give a lot of details about it, but I'm probably just making this up, but I like to believe that the Wheel of Time show really taught him what happens if you don't have 100% control, because he has gone on record about the show. One of the main characters is a character named Perrin, my personal favorite, because I am a large guy, so I do try to be careful around people, even though I don't always see myself as big, but every now and then I'm around short people, I'm like, oh crap, I am really big. I don't have an internal, like, two wolves, literal wolves inside of me as Perrin does, but he's one of my favorite characters. I wanted to name my son Perrin when we were younger. And Perrin as a character was totally screwed up. And Brandon Sanderson has gone on record saying he tried. He was at an expo earlier this year, and he was like, "Guys, I tried so hard. I tried to get Amazon to change it. I knew they were screwing him up, and there's nothing I could do," because he was just a consultant. And so I like to believe that now he's much more strict about it. And for that reason, I don't believe that those books are ever going to get turned into shows, because I don't think any studio is actually going to be faithful enough to them. And I also think that One Piece, he's a big anime fan and big video game fan. He's such a huge nerd. He's just a big, lovable nerd guy. And I think that One Piece was also a big influence, that the creator of that manga, Eiichiro Oda, was very involved in that show, and he retained creative control, and he wouldn't allow themes to be inverted or subverted or whatever. And it was a great show. But I don't know that Mistborn is ever going to be made. And I also don't think that it's, right now, I don't think that it's big enough in the general consciousness of the audience that it could get the money, and the show would be big enough that it would pay for itself. I think that's another issue. He's huge in the reading spheres, but if you ask most people walking about on the street, "Hey, have you ever heard of Brandon Sanderson or the Stormlight books or whatever?" They'd be like, "No, I've never heard of that." So I don't think that he's at that level of popularity where a show, hey, Stormlight show, enough people in the general audience would be like, "Oh, I can't wait to see that." And so there's a lot of factors working against that one. What do we like to do as a family? We play games together, mostly card games, and we watch shows and stuff together. We go on walks together. What I like we built our house about a decade ago, and what I like about it is our living room and kitchen are one big gigantic room. There's no wall. There's not even like a little half wall between the living room and kitchen. And our kids don't have TVs in their rooms, and they're not allowed to take their tablets in their rooms. So pretty much we just hang out in those rooms. We cook a lot. We're like I said, we homeschool, so we're here all day. Everybody's here all day. So there's 3 meals getting prepared here a day. We just kind of hang out. That's pretty much what we do. Is we hang out in the same room together. Either I play Fortnite with my sons, or we watch shows together, or like I said, we play a lot of cards. I think there's a question about that later. I'll talk about those later. The hardest part about raising a family, no lie, the hardest part about raising a family is that you can't be selfish, and you want to. And I want to. I think we all do. I want nothing more than to play video games and sleep and go. Before we had kids, my wife and I got married, we were 20. And so we met in high school, and it is adorable. And when we first got married, we were 20, we were night owls, and I worked shift work at that time. And so it would be midnight, 1:00. We'd still be up watching TV. I'd be playing video games, whatever. And we'd be like, you know what sounds great? Pancakes. And we would leave the house at 1 a.m., go get some pancakes. And then I would go to bed and I would get up for a shift at 5:00 because I was invincible at the time. Just extra coffee would solve that problem. I don't even know that person anymore. And that's the difficulty, I think, in raising a family, is that I still want to be selfish and I can't. And that is hard to fight against. And I believe that I will be fighting against that impulse for the rest of my life, because I think that's all of us. I think we all just want to do what we want to do when we want to do it. And it's really easy to get angry that you can't for whatever reason. And I think that's the most difficult part. And the moving of everyone.
Yeah, large family, it's hard to get us.
Yeah, we have 6 kids, so we start leaving 20 minutes before we have to leave. And even then, we're usually still late. I'm going to do one more. And then if you want to think about
raising a family is affording it. Yeah, that's not super easy.
Yeah, no, it's, you know what, a year ago, inflation started to kick in, and we were lucky. The channel started to make a little bit of money, and we had paid a few debts off, and we were just starting to get ahead. And then all of a sudden, everything got expensive, and then we were caught up again. And it's like, it feels like you can't get ahead right now. And it's very, very frustrating. And these kids are getting older and they're eating more, and that's very pricey.
12-year-old is almost 6 feet tall. So
yeah,
he's tough to feed right now. Just him.
Yeah. What are my thoughts on the anti-woke crowd? So I don't know that I agree with the anti-woke. That's a loaded phrase because it can mean a lot of things. I mean, I'm against wokeness, but I think what's happening right now is we're swinging a bit too far to the other way. And we've been beaten down by the entertainment industry so much that now people are starting to call stuff woke that I don't think really fits the definition. And they're starting to sound like the racists and sexist that they're being accused of being, or they were being accused of being. And at this point, it's getting to a point where I think I have a video planned for this, that certain entertainment never gets off the ground because it shares attributes with stuff that has been woke in the past. I think Furiosa suffered from that. I think people saw a bald lead female action and they were like, nope, pass. And I haven't seen that one. What I'm told is that it's not woke. You can't call that woke. She was in the first movie. It's a great movie. People say it's really good. But I think that it's gotten to the point now where everybody is so gun shy because there have been so many examples that now female-led anything is already starting. It's ironic that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Those things are starting behind. Or there was a video game recently called Flintlock, and same thing. Black female protagonist, action game. She's got the side shave, all the things that you associate with, oh, I've seen this before, pattern recognition kicks in, I don't want to play this. And that one completely flopped at launch. Now that partly deserved it because I played a little bit of that game and it wasn't great. But I do think that it is starting to go a bit too far. However, it's hard to blame the audience. First of all, I would never blame the audience for not buying a thing. That's not their job. They don't owe anybody their time or money. And so I have mixed feelings about it. I'm actually going to do a video about where woke came from. It's not to make him a bad guy. Well, I don't agree with him, but it really did start with Karl Marx and the way that he was viewing the world, and people saw the way he viewed economics and they took his morality, and it leads to postmodernism, leads to identity politics, what we call woke now. They stole it from black people. There's a whole string of events that all comes up there. But I don't like to consider myself an anti-woke person, but I also have a hard time being mad at them because I get it. When am I going to review Mr. Burcham or the New Norm Show? As a matter of fact, so my wife is helping me be organized. She's helping me be an organized human being. So in the 5th week of October, I have videos planned out, 1 a week for the rest of the year. We actually sat down and did this because I was doing the get inspired method where I would something sounds fun and I would work on that video until it was done. And then that video would post and she'd be like, what's the next video? I'm like, I don't know. Until I get inspired, I don't know. And that's not really a great way to run a channel. So the 5th week of October, I will be doing a video on Mr. Burcham, Lady Ballers, and the New Norm, because I've watched a little bit of all of those and they're terrible. New Norm especially is horrible. So that's when I'll be doing that. And the second channel is on hold because I won't start a second channel until I don't have to do much on it. So I need this channel to make enough that I can pay an editor and I can pay a researcher, and I pretty much just have to be the talent. And it would be a sort of a managed second channel because I don't have time to do both. And I think this channel would suffer. But I think there's been a question already, or maybe there is later, about the content of the channel. It does have to sort of stay very entertainment focused. And that's why I don't talk as much about politics, or that's what it was, the manosphere. I don't talk about that stuff as much unless I can put it in an entertainment lens, unless it comes through a movie or a show lens or something. If I just go off and talk about something else, YouTube doesn't know what to do with that. And so it doesn't market it. And then the video doesn't get watched. And you guys, most of you are subscribed because you saw a video that I did about movies or a show or whatever. And so then all of a sudden this other video comes up and you're like, oh, well, I'm not really interested in that. And so YouTube says, well, your core audience doesn't like it. I don't think anybody else is. And then the video just dies. So YouTube kind of keeps you in a bit of a track that way. So you do have to start a second channel if you want to talk about other stuff, but I don't have the time for it right now. You got extra ones?
No, that was actually on my list.
Oh, okay. Well, I will keep on going then. I made these way too small. So, this is my day job. I have mentioned I have a hard hat job, and I do keep it separate from the channel because I do work for a business, and not everything I say is, corporate approved. So I keep large separation from myself professionally and YouTube-ly. I do work in an industrial environment. That is as far as I'll go. Yeah, it's an industrial environment. I do wear a hard hat. I've been working in one of those since when I was 20, 21. I was going to be a school teacher when I was younger. I was going to school to be a science teacher. I've always wanted to be a science teacher. And I am one now because I homeschool. But I was also a mechanic at that time. And a friend of my father-in-law's worked in an industrial plant. And he said, hey, you're a mechanic, so you have mechanical knowledge and mechanical aptitude, and you're going to school to be a science teacher. Mechanics and science, you should work here. And they pay more than teachers. And so I started doing that. And they said, the only thing that you have to give us in return is you have to destroy your body with shift work. And I was 21, I think. And I said, I'm never going to die. Shift work means nothing to me. So absolutely sign me up. And I've been doing it ever since. And just now I'm realizing the Faustian bargain that I made because my knees are giving out on me. The other person asked, do I have another work? Yes. YouTube is not my only profession. No. YouTube is YouTube. YouTube is YouTube. YouTube varies wildly as far as like what you can make on it. And as far as white dudes who are almost 40 talking about movies and shows, I am not unique. There's a lot of us. So my particular genre does not pay amazingly. It's good. Like I am making money on YouTube, and it's fantastic. And it is helping to progress the channel. Wait, what's that? Right. Yeah. Well, obviously, we've got super chats, and yeah, everybody's watching. So the ad money is coming in and everything. It's not enough to quit, but it's progressing the channel more, and it is very, very helpful. But in my particular genre, you got to be a big channel to do it professionally, or you got to be young and single. But no, eventually I would like to, because that's the goal, is to grow the channel enough to where I do it full time. And then obviously I'll produce a lot more content because I won't have a day job in the way, but also I just want to be home. Like that's my goal, is to just work here, be around my kids, do this stuff full time. So no, it's not the only thing right now, but that is the plan. I mean, that's where I want to go to. If I get large enough, I will quit and I will do this full time. My professional background. So like I said, I work in an industrial plant. I do have an associate's degree that I finished up between jobs, but I don't really use it. And my cup is Folgers today. It's good stuff. And the second person asked if I censor myself or adjust and edit with outside of, with my employees or my family members or friends in mind. I do. And honestly, I think that's for the best. If I was totally anonymous, I probably would say more inappropriate things than are necessary. And that's not great. I think it's actually really good that I know that someone I know might see my stuff and question me about it. And it keeps me from being stupid. It keeps me from just being hyperbolic about stuff. So yeah. What's in the like button? You gotta do it. Yeah. I messed it up earlier. Hang on. I had it. I was going to do it. You gotta hit the like button. That was not good.
No, run it again.
You run again?
Yeah.
All right. In the cup today is Folgers, and no, it's ruined now. Just hit the like button if you're watching still. All right. back to these questions. Hang on, I had a super chat. And I've lost it now. Ruby wants to know if I read books by Larry Correia. He's got a great trilogy called the Grimoire Chronicles. It was a lot of fun. Love your content. And it's always a treat seeing you on other streams. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat. And thanks for the kind words. I have not. You writing that one down?
I am. Yeah.
TBR just got longer. Yes. Never ever going to read all the books that I want to read. That is also something I love about that movie about time, is that Bill Nighy is a time traveler and he uses his time traveling abilities to read all the books. That was his goal. And I'm like, that's a great goal. I love that about that guy. So wants to know if I do EFAP. I think I might go on EFAP because I was on BSUP with Platoon and I think I'm going to be there again Monday. So one of these days I might do EFAP, but that's like an all-day Saturday thing. So that's going to be difficult for me to do. Okay, so my process for YouTube videos, my filming setup. I'm starting to get more organized about it. My process used to just be whatever sounds fun to write. And then I would write about 3/4 of it. And then something else shiny would catch my brain and I would do that as well. So I use Notion, and I used to have a bunch of subpages, but I think that I might have attention deficit problems. And now I just have one page and everything is all on the same page, which my wife tells me is standard ADD symptoms, that everything has to be in front of me because I don't have object permanence apparently. So I do have a schedule now. We worked it all out by length and that kind of thing. And I keep it all in Notion. So I keep scripts going all the time. So that is my process. I do write them out. Everything you see is, I write it all out as a script. And the writing actually is what takes me the longest, because I write my stuff. I read it over again. I try to add humor to it. I try to sharpen my points. So I perform my videos, but I am reading them. Like I'm not making them up off the cuff. I wish I was that smart to just say cool stuff off the cuff, but I'm not. So most of my stuff is writing. Most of the time takes writing because I want to make sure that the lines are punchy, they're memorable, they are funny. Yeah, little Easter eggs, little fun turns of phrases. And that can only really be achieved if I go over the scripts multiple times and I really, take care to put fun references in or change this phrasing. Or oftentimes I will run my scripts through, sometimes I'll run my scripts through AI. I use ChatGPT and I will feed, I don't let it write my scripts, but what I do is I feed the entire thing into chat and I say, what am I trying to say? And do you have any counter arguments for me? And it will analyze the script. It will tell me what I'm trying to say in the script. So if it can read the script and understand my points, that's a bonus right there. So that means I've laid it out at least so that ChatGPT can tell me this is what your argument is. It will summarize my argument. And if I feel like it's telling me a good summary, then I feel like I've at least made my point. And I'll use that to get some counter arguments, or what might the audience disagree with, or things like that. So you can ask it questions like that. I also will often put my script into a Word document and do a find and replace and get rid of words like very, thing, stuff, too many uses of good. This is another great use of ChatGPT. Those of you that write, you can feed a lot of stuff into it and you can ask it, what are words that I use way too much? I use the word excellent too much. There are certain adjectives that I go to. Those are my go-tos. And so I massage the scripts that way to try to make them interesting and not boring sounding. Not, Robin Williams told me that the word very is not okay. And I've lived by that for most of my life. And I do have a bookshelf tour. As a matter of fact, I will come back to this slide in just a second. So my bookshelves are mostly bare. What you see on camera is stuffed into the camera because I have more stuff that I'm going to add. But the bookshelf on the left, I have my Hitchhiker's Guide, all the books of the Hitchhiker's Guide, my Lord of the Rings bookends. I've got Brandon Sanderson's Secret Projects. That dude, when we were all on lockdown, he wrote 4 novels that year for his wife. He was never going to sell them. He wrote them as a present to his wife because there was no conventions. There was nothing to do during lockdown. So he wrote 4 freaking books. And he was like, here, honey, I gave you these as a present. And then she said, you should really sell them. And he did Kickstarter, and there they are. And they're gorgeous. They're foil covered. The inside, their illustrations inside. He knows how to make pretty stuff. He knows that we, the nerds, like beautiful things, and that he does that. And then I also have a bunch of C.S. Lewis books that my wife bought me. Keep my Strong's Concordance on my shelf because definitions are extremely important, along with my Final Fantasy memorabilia, my old pipe. I used to smoke a pipe a long time ago, so I thought it was cool. My Harry Potter books, and then we were recently cleaning out some books from my in-laws' house, and I've got an old Baptist hymnal there. I've got an old, I think that's a book of Shakespeare, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Sherlock Holmes.
Sure, that's what it was. Sherlock Holmes. I think maybe some Shakespeare. I know that's a Baptist hymnal. So I got some old books from my in-laws' basement. Keep my Ollivander wands on top. On the other side, I've got my old PlayStation with my old PlayStation Magazine sticker. That's that eye patch there, fella. Coffee cup that my son made me. My Valentine book. Is it Valentine or Valentine? I've heard it both ways. Those Lord of the Rings books are made by a company, Valentine. It's one of the two, and I've mispronounced it before, and now I'm so confused I can't think of it. That other book, that's a Warbreaker, also by Brandon Sanderson. Again, beautiful foiling. Got my Mimic. Well, it's on my shelf, so there. I've got my Mimic chest right there. That came with. Hang on, I'm excited about this. That was an early purchase present. I bought this enormous D&D Lego set, and I'm going to build this big red dragon, and he's going to go on. He's partly built. So I've got his body. I've got to get between video games and kids and script writing and stuff. I don't have time to build that massive Lego set, but that big red dragon is definitely going to go onto the scene. I do have part of it built. It's this little, oh, I should make myself big again. I've got this little scene. All of these are actually meant to fit together. They have little pegs, and they're meant to, there's a tower, and there's this, and there's one other building, and they're meant to stick together with those things. And this thing is called the In Plain Sight. And there's all kind of little details in there. Some kid stole my dwarf paladin. I'm going to have to talk to somebody about that. But I'm going to build that, and that's going to go on my shelf here. But that's what that Mimic chest is from. That was a little bonus. And those gold dice are from my D&D game. I was a bard. Those are my inspiration dice. I bought some gold dice. All my D&D stuff, my D&D mug. Got that from Spencer's. I was buying for a coworker, and I saw that, and I loved it. My old C# book, Logic book, my Harry Potter in Russian, Harry Potter, и философские камни, old horror stories, and all my PlayStation 1 games. So that is my bookshelf tour right there. I'm going to add to that more. And I am liking the Silmarillion. So I read the first two. I read the letter that Tolkien sent to, I don't remember who he sent it to. Hang on, I have it written down. To Milton Waldman. And I looked it up to make sure that I had heard it correctly. And people have this stuff written down. That is letter number 131. They have Tolkien's letters catalog like he was George Washington or something. Wow. I didn't know that. Like, I knew Tolkien was big, but I didn't know that it was like that. I didn't realize what I was getting into. But I read the first two chapters, whose names I can't pronounce. Valaquenta was the second one that I can't pronounce the first time. But I decided to stop it because I'm going to review Rings of Power Season 2, and I want it to be funny, and I don't actually want to know what's going on in the Silmarillion, so I can just be silly with that one. How hard is it to be a YouTuber? It's a lot. The difficulty with being a YouTuber is that you get out of it what you put in, and that can bite you, because what that can lead you to is a mentality where you just never stop working and you don't enjoy things, and you work all the time because you're like, well, the more I work, the more I get. I'm the business owner. I get, and then you can burn yourself out, and that's a very difficult temptation to get away from. I still do the same thing that I was doing before. I just added this in. Really, my wife is the one that encouraged me to do YouTube because we like to talk about stuff, and she's my biggest cheerleader. And she said, I think that you have good ideas and people need to hear them, and you need to make YouTube videos. And I was like, okay, that's whatever. I'll try it. And what I really enjoy about it is the editing and the writing. I like the writing and I like the editing. I love sticking I like finding the perfect clip to add in, a little cutaway. I like the little Easter eggs. I love the little in jokes I get to hide in the script. I love the subtleness of it. That's very exciting. That's what keeps me going. It's very, very fun. But she's the one that got me started. She's the one that encouraged me because she thinks that I'm smart for some reason. I think it's just Stockholm syndrome. We've been together for like 25 years, 23 years,
2002.
22 years. So I just think at this point we have a lot of kids, and she just says nice things. But oh, an embarrassing. I was gonna get an embarrassing story or an embarrassing picture. I forgot to. I was gonna get the picture of me in the shorty shorts.
Oh.
I gotta find those. I had a pair of jeans that was falling apart, so I cut them off real short, Daisy Duke style. I have pictures of it somewhere. Maybe in the future I'll put that up. And Toasted Spiders wants to know. Well, that's why I started the channel. My wife encouraged me to. And my biggest tips are to try it for 6 months, 6 months to a year. Just commit to making a video every week, whatever. And because you don't know if you're going to love it unless you do it for a while. Because it won't be good. It won't be good right away. First, your videos won't be good right away. And it'll be difficult to stay consistent right away. And you won't get a lot of views right away. The first several months are just going to be terrible as far as like success standards goes. And if you don't find something that you're enjoying about it, then you'll know. But if you find something you love, like you really love the editing process like I do, then that's what you'll lean into. So I think that don't just make 2 videos. If you want to make a YouTube channel, don't just make 2 or 3. Make 20 or 25, one a week for half a year, and then reassess after that. And the last one on this page is my face is in the way. Is there a focus you would like to take with your YouTube channel, or is it always going to be this life movies essay type? So this YouTube channel, oddly enough, started out as slightly political life advice, organizational advice. It was going to be, hold on, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was going to be more serious. And I sort of lucked into what I'm doing now in that. Yeah, don't come on camera. She wants to be on camera so bad. Just no. I made a video about Marvel, like upcoming Marvel projects, and how the point of that video was just supposed to be take care of your time. Treat your time like a precious resource. And I was using the example of there's She-Hulk coming up, there's Wakanda Forever coming up. There were a bunch of, this was 2 years ago, there was a bunch of upcoming Marvel projects. And the video was really just to say that stuff is not even worth watching. It looks like trash and you don't have to watch it. You don't owe anybody your time. So it was really more of like a life advice thing. And it did well, but also my wife watched that one and she said, watch that one and then watch one of your other ones. And you're better when you're talking about movies or shows or whatever. Like you're more fun. You're more engaged. Your delivery is just entirely different. And so I decided to take it this route where it's more about entertainment. It's more about movies and writing and such, but I still slip in a little bit of dad advice, dad mode, that kind of thing. So that's where we're going to continue to go. Is I'll continue to try to give out life advice and fatherly wisdom, but masked under discussions about TV shows and movies and that sort of thing. And I really can't do anything else. Like I said, YouTube is it's pretty much what it is. You really can't get outside of it. You can try to slowly curb your channel, but I think the better course at this point would be to grow this channel more and then use it to help fund a second channel that would talk about maybe something like politics or whatever, something to that effect. I have a couple of super chats I want to get through. Really enjoyed your Acolyte video. Embrace the long man. Hopefully you do get a chance to be on EFAP because I think you'd be great on it. I really.
Question about what people think.
What's that?
If they think you should go hard on the long form stuff, or if they appreciate the smaller videos.
So yeah, I'm interested in what you guys think. Do you think that the channel, would you like the channel to be more long form, like majority long form, hour and a half, something like that, which would be spaced out a bit? Or do you prefer the 15 to 20 minutes? Would you want to see a little bit of a mix? Would you want the mix to be heavier on long or heavier on short? Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. I'm interested to see what you would like to see more of. Currently, I have planned maybe 5 to 6 really long ones a year because they're a lot of work. I gained a lot of respect for the long, like Mahler, Platoon. I gained a lot of respect for those guys making that Acolyte video because it was a lot of work, more work than I thought. And I just didn't really think it through. Bit off more than I could chew. And the show was so bad I couldn't stop talking about it because there was just so many mistakes. And Rust says, shut up and take my money. And He told me to shut up.
I know. Well, you gotta thank him for you. So
Thank you, sir. I think that's 50 now.
he's amazing.
Goodness gracious. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate the support.
Oh, already those. Do you have questions?
No.
You want right now? Okay. Yeah, I want to see. I'm really interested to see what people are what length they really like. That's a loaded question there. I'm not mature enough to say things like that out loud. When taking family to see a movie, how much do you worry that there's something you wouldn't like the kids to see? A fair amount. I do look things up, and children's entertainment is getting to the point where it feels very strange. Like adults are trying to validate themselves by putting strange things in kids' TV. And I've spoken on this in videos in the past where what a lot of writers consider to be adult is just graphic. It's not even thought-provoking. There are plenty of thought-provoking social issues, things that I don't even agree with, but if they're presented well, I enjoy them. But when they're just thrown in my face and they just feel like shock value, I don't love that. And that's creeping into children's media, and it does worry me. What episodes of Bluey hit the hardest? If you guys haven't watched Bluey, you absolutely should. It's one of the best shows on television. It's great for literally great for all ages. And I'm not trying to exaggerate there. I can watch that show. I can watch and enjoy that show with no kids around. It's that good. It's great storytelling. It's very efficient. If you're talking about like from a writing standpoint, they set up an entire storyline. They have 9 minutes to do this. The one that hits me real hard is the fruit bat episode. That one hits me because I am a busy father. And in that episode, the kids sort of learn that, oh, dad is a person and he's very busy and he has a lot of things and he gave up things to be a father. And so it makes me feel seen as a dad. Like there's a lot of sacrifice in parenting. And that episode was really about the kids recognizing, oh, parents make sacrifices. They're not just here to just do things for us because it's fun. The episode, I don't know what episode it is, but there's an episode where the mom dog, Chili, is having a really bad day. And her neighbor or another dog, a poodle, sits down with her and just tells her she's a good mom. She's doing really well. And I think a lot of moms, that one, that's a tough one there. There's another episode where it's Father's Day and they're making an omelet and the kids want to help, but they suck at making eggs. And the mom is like, I just want to make dad an omelet. And they really want to make him an omelet, but they're bad at cooking. And in the end, mom kind of realizes like it's about the fact that they're involved and they want to do things for their dad and all that. And she sort of learns that lesson of like, maybe things want to be perfect. It's just that we're spending time together as a family. That's a fun one. That one hits hard because it's easy to, I'm trying to do things around the house, cooking, cleaning, whatever. The kids want to help. They want to help you. And oftentimes I find myself like, I really don't want your help because I just want to get it done. And it's more work to have you help me. That episode is really, that one was powerful that like, you need to let them help. You got to teach them things. Just spend time with them, favorite books that are aimed at younger readers. So we listen to a lot of books in our house. We have quiet time every day, which I'll talk about in a bit. 2 hours of quiet time, and everybody listens to books. And listening to books is great, especially for younger kids. It increases their vocabulary. It's amazing. And our kids listen to literal hours of books every day. Ones that they like a lot, they like the Wingfeather Saga. It's very much like, I would compare that to a Narnia style. It's not like Christian. It's got a lot of Christian imagery, very much like Narnia does. So it is written by a Christian author, and it does have a lot of that imagery. I do like Brandon Sanderson, again, wrote a kids series called Alcatraz and the Evil Librarians, and it's very tongue-in-cheek. He talks to the audience a lot, and that one breaks the fourth wall. It's very goofy. He's just really, like, as an author, he's just playing around. And he's having a great time, and they're fun. They're fun books. My kids like those a lot. The Mr. Lemoncello books, those are very good. I like those because it's all about kids thinking their way out of problems. I like to feed that to my kids. They like the Fablehaven books. I don't even know what those are about. That's a new one, but they like those a lot. And then there is another series of books called the Cradle series, written by Will White. And White as in the evil spirit. And those are really great. I like those, especially for boys, because it's like a martial arts style book, and they have powers. Everybody has like this soul chi power, but the main character was born without it. And so he lives the first chunk of his life having to learn to do things that other people find so easy because they have this, these chi empowered bodies and all of this. And so he has to learn to be creative. And then when he finally does, he's still behind everyone his age. And so over the first half of this series, it's 12 books, but they're pretty short. They're really easy reads. And I've only read half of it because the books are so engaging that when I start listening to one, I don't want to do anything else. And they move quickly. They're a lot of fun. They're very engaging. And I haven't started the 7th one because once I start them, I don't get a lot of other things done and I have too much going on. So that's my recommendation. They're very good, but they're great for boys because he's powerful, but he has to use his wits. He has to outsmart his opponents. He's not just Mr. Strong guy. A lot of boys just fantasize about having superpowers, and he has them, but they're still not enough to carry him over. He has to outthink his opponents, and I think that's great for boys to read, especially. I have $50 from John Super Chat. Thank you so much, John. John says, appreciate your content. I think it works because you often have a more nuanced and complete perspective that is erudite without being snobby. Interested to see how you grow from here. I really appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. I aim for that all the time. And that I find my videos getting a bit longer now because I am aiming for a bit of a more nuanced take on things, which takes more video time. That's always a tough balance, is explaining things well without going too long and having an hour-long video that doesn't need to be an hour long. Thank you very much, sir. I'm excited to see where we go from here as well. This person, Alexi, wants to know if Echo Chamberlain found me or did I find him. Enjoy seeing us on the Echo Chamber every other Tuesday. I am on the Echo Chamberlain channel with Echo Chamberlain and the Despot of Antrim and then other guests. That one, Despot found us, but Echo is really good at hosting. So Despot is the first person that I ever streamed with. He emailed me one day. I think I had like 10,000 subscribers. He had 20,000. He emailed me, said, hey, you want to do a stream? I'd never done a stream. I was super nervous about it. We talked, went well. He emailed me back. He had also done streams with Echo. And I think that he's the one that sort of found the two of us. And the three of us just kind of streamed together a couple of times. And then we just decided to make it a regular deal. I hosted us once. It was all right. I think Despot hosted us once. And then Echo hosted. And he made little intro videos. He comes up with games that we play, ranking games. He plays a game where he finds top songs like from the Billboard Top 100 that sound crazy, and then he also makes up artists and song titles and quizzes us to see if we can guess which ones are real and which ones are fake. And they're so outlandish, they're crazy. So that is kind of how it all fell together. And Echo is an excellent host, and so now he's the regular host every other Tuesday of the Echo Chamber. I think that we make a very good team because Echo is a published author. He's very, he sounds very prim. He's very well read. Despot plays into the, angry Irish guy. He's very brash. I have the dad energy. So I feel like we all bring three separate things. I really like the combination of the three of our personalities. So a couple months ago, I was talking about a project where I was going to watch a bunch of YouTubers, a bunch of Black YouTubers, because my youngest daughter's Black. I have mentioned we were foster parents, and that foster journey failed in a way. She wasn't able to go back home, and we adopted her. So my youngest daughter's Black. So now I need to figure out what are the appropriate Black things to teach her. We try to take care of her hair. What are Black cultural things that I need to know so that she doesn't feel like she's weird? There's a lot involved. There's a lot of identity stuff that's involved with that. And so I was talking about a few months ago because every May I do a fundraiser for foster care for a organization called Safe Families for Children. They're not actually foster care. They are foster care. They're pre-foster care. They work with people who are at risk of the state having to step in. Maybe they can't watch their kids for health reasons or money reasons or whatever. They hook them up with other families to sort of do like a long-term babysitting, like a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, to sort of support them so that the state doesn't have to get involved, so that no one has to go to foster care, because once the state gets involved, it gets ugly and they don't let go. And so I do a fundraiser for them every May. And leading up to that, I was going to do a video about what is Blackness according to YouTubers. According to FD Signifier, he's a big essayist, or according to Little Bill, who's a big Black YouTuber, or according to Glenn, why can't I think of Glenn's last name? He's a conservative one, or according to Thomas Sowell, or both liberal and conservative Black commentators. What is Black culture according to them? Is it and I have been watching those, but that video will never be public. I will never make that video because it doesn't fit with the channel. It's not entertainment related. That would be I did one the other day on like a fresh, or not the other month, like a Fresh and Fit. They had a panel of guys, and it was dumb, and there was a big muscly idiot on there, and I made a video about that. And again, it got outside of my entertainment scope, and YouTube doesn't know what to do. So I will never make that video, but I will continue to watch those. And yeah, Ruined Leon is hilarious. I watch him a lot. So I continue to watch those. And if a second channel ever comes up, that would be excellent to make videos like that. I would make consistent videos like that. But I will never, on this channel, I will never be able to make that because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the theme. And I'm seeing that now. YouTube is very, and it makes sense. It makes sense for them. It's more efficient. I get it from a business standpoint. It just feels constricting sometimes. Do you have any questions? Okay. Somebody wants to know, why haven't I read Dungeon Crawler Carl yet? And what's crazy is yesterday I pulled up Audible, and there it was right on top. And I don't follow Daniel Green anymore. He's a book YouTuber. I don't follow him much because I don't agree with his takes on stuff, but I saw a thumbnail pop up in my feed about him. I guess there's going to be a Dungeon Crawler Carl movie or show. So it's weird. It's like this question got asked, and then I start seeing this Dungeon Crawler Carl all over. It's a comedy lit RPG, which is another genre that I hadn't heard of until just last year. Basically, it's like a video game. Like the character levels up like a video game character, but in a book. And apparently, it's like a dystopian future where the entire Earth is now a dungeon that you have to get through, but you have to do so in a very Hunger Games kind of way. You have to be very showy to get sponsors and make it out of the dungeon on time. And Carl is the main character, and it's supposed to be very humorous and action packed and all that kind of stuff. Sounds like a lot of fun. So I do want to get into that, but I've already explained my TBR is way too long right now. I'm trying to ignore other books, and it's not working. I'm still adding more, but I bought the Matt. What is the name of that one? Steven Erickson. The Malazan books. Somebody recommended that, and we were at Barnes and Noble. I don't like to brag about this, but I am a premium member of Barnes and Noble. And I bought that while I was there, and now it's on my nightstand, and I don't have time to read it, but I bought it anyway. I have a real problem with books. Is there a series, movie, show, game that you want to get into or really can't? Oh, this is actually a really great question for this. Their example, Horizon Zero Dawn, really good game. They want to like it, but they just can't find a way to get into it, which is understandable. I need to go back and play the second game. I bought that one, and I don't know. It didn't grab me, and I want to play it, but I haven't. The ones so far, there are a few things that I've tried that I want to love, and I don't love them. The thing that I get that they're like movie shows, books that I want to get into. My problem is the ones that feel overwhelming because they're already loved and there's too much of them now. So One Piece is a really great example, both the manga and the anime. There's 1,000 episodes, and people are like, it's so amazing, and I believe them, but I'm so overwhelmed by that. It's so much. Or like Naruto is another one that people are like, it's great. 700 episodes. Stuff like that is so overwhelming to me. Or Game of Thrones is another one. 8 full seasons of television. That one also, because I know it ends badly. But by extension, House of the Dragon. Because I feel like I don't want to get into House of the Dragon because there's so much stuff that I don't know. There's all these references I'm not going to get. And so it's one of those things that I want to like. I want to be part of the pop culture moment that is. But I feel so behind and out of my depth. As far as video games go, there's a video game series called the Persona series. Same thing. There's a bunch of those, and they're long games, and I want to get into them, and I just feel like there's so much. Or there are a lot of RPGs are that way. A lot of Japanese RPGs, Trails games. Star Ocean is a game that I used to play on PlayStation, and there's been a bunch of those. now I feel like I'm too far behind. I don't know what the story is. Like it's so much. Yeah, that I think is my biggest thing is when something is big and everybody loves it and I'm too far behind, then I'm just scared to even start at that point. Vernon wants to know, first of all, thanks for the answer. Thank you for the $5, Vernon. I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate you watching as well. Something for my daughter's hair care. I appreciate that because it's not cheap and it takes a long time. Black hair is it's a lot. It's a lot to learn. There's a lot of technique to it. It is fun. That's the thing is you can do more with it. I mean, my hair only does one thing. That's it. But black hair, you can shape it how you want. You can straighten it. You can extra curl it. I mean, little girls especially get all kind of fun. Yeah, a lot of it. So she's got beads. I think she has 2 twists going down the front right now with purple beads, and then she's got 2 puffs kind of in the back on the top, and then big purple balls that go around the puffs. She loves that. She likes big puffs. Or like really popular for girls is the two big mini ear puffs. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things you can do with it. And what is my favorite class in D&D? I usually almost always gravitate to a paladin. I like the idea of a tank that does damage. In video games, I like paladins. In D&D, I like paladins. However, playing with my kids, I was the DM and I also had a character to sort of help them out, and I was a bard. And I really liked that because you don't really do a lot of damage as a bard, but I like the support of it. I like the crowd control. I like the support. I had a really good time helping them out or sort of, crowd controlling enemies or whatever for the kids, sort of give them a little boost. I enjoy that. If I ever get back to Baldur's Gate 3, I will probably do a bard next time because it's a fun way to go. Just shout me out if you write down any questions or whatever. Shout at me. Oh, okay. So this one's a lot of video game. That's why I piled these all up. So have I seen the new Dragon Age Veilguard gameplay? I have. It just looks very average. It looks very okay. It looks like a game that doesn't know what it wants to be. And I think the reports that I've heard, it started as an MMO. It was going to be an online game. And some of the design elements reflect that. It's very purple. It feels very Fortnite, kind of cartoon-y. So it feels very mobile game, feels very MMO, vibe to it. And they've all the companion involvement as far as combat goes. You pretty much just every now and then pull up the pause screen. I saw the high level gameplay that came out recently. It doesn't look as bad as the old stuff. It's definitely better than the stuff they put out a month or 2 ago, which isn't saying much because that looked horrible. But it also doesn't look good. It looks like a game that if it didn't have a name that I'd recognize, if the word Dragon Age wasn't attached to it, if it was called literally anything else, and they were like, hey, here's a fantasy game that's coming out, I would look at that once and I wouldn't pay attention to it again. And it's not that I hate it. It just doesn't look worth $70 or 50 or 40 bucks. It's maybe in a year or 2 when it's on sale and all the DLCs and everything, I might check it out. But it just looks like not something that I'm really interested in. The next person wants to know what my favorite games are and some cool stories about them. So one of my favorite games of all time is Final Fantasy Tactics. And it's an old PlayStation game. You're on a grid. It's very RPG. It's very turn-based. Love that game. I bought another one. I can't think of the title now. I bought one for PlayStation that tried to recreate that, and it just didn't have the same vibe. And a lot of that is probably because I was just a kid and I just have nostalgia attached to that one game, but I love that one. And I like old Final Fantasy games. And with Final Fantasy, I have discovered it's a lot like music. Whatever Final Fantasy game came out when you were 13 or 14, that's the one that you love the most. So for me, Final Fantasy VII is the one. And I had an old friend who was a few years younger than me, and he loved Final Fantasy X. And I was like, that tracks because we were both 13 when those respective games came out. That's the one that you like. But as far as like my favorite games go, I was talking to my wife, and again, it's the rose-colored nostalgia, but I miss the old communal aspect of video gaming. When you didn't play online, so you had to pack up your stuff and travel to your friend's house, and it was a pain, to be sure. I mean, and this was before flat screens were prevalent too. So I had a CRT, a 27-inch CRT. It weighed like 40 pounds, and I would strap that into my back seat, and with an extra router and my Xbox, and you would travel to people's houses, and whatever room you were in, or in multiple rooms, you'd have, Cat5 cables running all over the place. And that was a really fun time. It was a cultural moment that I really do miss. I love the convenience of online gaming. I think that's really cool, but there was really something about everybody having to get together in the same room to play Gears of War or Halo or whatever it was. And I also still have these fond memories of midnight launches of physical games. A friend of mine, we went to Best Buy at midnight to buy Halo 2, and I bought the special edition that came in a steel case, and I still have that metal case. And we were so goofy. We were in high school. No, I wasn't in high school. I was in college because I had a morning class. So I was like 18 at the time. And we bought a gallon of milk and a jar of honey because it was a land of milk and honey, because we were so excited about Halo 2 coming out because we were just stupid. And we bought that at midnight, went home, played it. There was another character, one of the enemy characters you could play as. We freaked out upon seeing that you could be one of the enemy characters. That was one of the storylines. We played until 8 o'clock in the morning because that is when my first college class started, and he took a nap on the couch while I went to math class. Stuff like that just doesn't happen anymore. And, I know that sounds very old and boomery, but those are some of my favorite stories, are the times when I was a kid, we had a Super Nintendo, and there was this racing game where you were unicycles. I can't remember the name of it, but there was unicycles. You didn't have not even a person riding on them. They were just unicycles. And me and my stepbrother would play that all the time. It was fantastic. Or there was a lot of Super Nintendo games were fighting games like Clay Fighters and stuff. I have really good memories of just being on the couch with somebody, trash talking, getting way too loud. I'm sure our parents hated it. Those are some of my favorite memories and stories about older games. But these days, Souls games, if we're being more current, anything with a Dark Souls in the title, I'm going to give it a try. And I love them. I am playing Black Myth Wukong at the moment. It's a lot of fun. The next person wants to know, I would love to know, what are some games that you feel are underrated or deserve a sequel? Their choice is Kid Icarus, Uprising. Did I write down? Oh crap. I didn't think of an answer for this one. A game that I think is very underrated. I guess going back to that era, there was a game called Brute Force. And again, that was like a multiplayer game. I would love to see something like that come back, because you could play with your friends and it was a squad-based game. But it was also campy. And I think that's something that's missing from modern games too, is we've leaned a bit too much into the realism, and we're missing the camp that used to make things very fun and just silly. That was all, I got it. I'm getting nostalgic. I have not played the Trails series of games. Like I said, that's another one that it's so big that I feel like I can't now, and I want to get into it, and it just feels like such a commitment that I'm overwhelmed by it. And lastly, somebody wants to know if I could be the protagonist of any video game character, which one would I be? I would be 1K from the Talos Principle 2. That is a fun series of video games where you solve puzzles and you ponder philosophy. You're a robot, and you're living in a future where humans don't exist anymore, and you come upon a bunch of philosophical writings pondering why humanity died out and what they could have done differently. And you have arguments with your fellow robots about what we can do differently. And when you're not doing that, you're solving large three-dimensional puzzles, usually with lasers. You have to direct a laser somehow using different tools. Super fun. I like Souls games, and I like puzzle games. So Talos Principle 1 and 2. There's a game called The Witness that I've played multiple times. That's fantastic. Whenever Jonathan Blow puts his next game out, he's the one that runs Thekla that made Witness. Whenever the next one comes out, I'm going to buy that day one because I like that guy a lot. My favorite engine from Thomas the Train is Percy, because Percy was put upon one day, and he learned that he wasn't actually put upon. He was just being kind of a whiner, and he got over that. And I respect Percy a lot for that. I used to watch a lot of Thomas, and I used to watch a lot of Barbie. People thought that was funny in the Acolyte video, like the deep Barbie lore. We used to watch a lot of Barbie. It was my favorite music genre and artist, my favorite live performance. So again, I think with music, whatever was happening in high school, that's your favorite. That's everybody's favorite. And like, you can tell how old somebody is by what bands that they like. So I was in high school around 2000, from 2000 2003. So pop, punk, emo, ska, those will always there, and they're not even good, a lot of them, but I don't care. They hold a special place in my heart. Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco, My Chemical Romance, Real Big Fish, Catch-22, Shampoo Sharks. Like, these things will always be special to me, even if they're not great. And I actually went to a Real Big Fish show one time. I went to a Real Big Fish show, which was really great because I was young and I was in the mosh pit. I was dancing and I was just having a great time. And I also went to, there's a band called the Aquabats and they pretend to be superheroes. And they also, for a long time, there was a show on Nickelodeon called Yo Gabba Gabba. And it was like a fever dream. It was crazy. I took my kids to a Yo Gabba Gabba show one time, and they lost their minds when DJ Lance Rock came out. And they're fun. They're super fun. They have a great time. They like I said, they pretend to be superheroes. Their songs are goofy. And I didn't realize that they actually own the Yo Gabba Gabba show. And so some of the mascots from Yo Gabba Gabba came out onto the stage. They have a superhero battle in the middle of their show. Always. They have full mascots, and they come out and they fight them with music, and they have a little skit. Those are fun shows. Absolutely. 5 Iron Frenzy. 100% less than Jake. All that stuff. I used to have a 5 Iron Frenzy shirt. My wife made me get rid of it because it didn't fit anymore. But other than that, other than the music that was there in high school, which is all of our favorites, I love 70s music, and I like all the genres. I like 70s pop. I like 70s soft rock. I like 70s rock. I like 70s R&B. I like 70s disco. All of it. All of that. I will listen to 70s from every genre all day long. I am not a huge fan of the 80s, weirdly. And I know a lot of people, that's their favorite decade, is the 80s. I could take the 80s, and I prefer to go backward. I like the 60s. I like the stuff that was leading into the 70s, the experimentation that was happening that made the 70s so great. The whole British invasion, all that. That's a big fan. I'm a big fan. Nope. What's up? Go brush teeth. Hold on. I don't want you on camera. Boom. There you go. Where'd he go?
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay. Good. All right. The internet's a weird place. And these people are very kind, but I don't know who's watching.
Yeah.
I did not wear eyeliner, but it was close.
You did have leopard print.
I did. I shopped at Hot Topic when I was a kid, and I had these pants that were literally and they were furry leopard print pants. And yeah, that's real. Those are gone. There's no pictures of that. There's no evidence that ever happened. So there you go. One of my favorite fight scene. Oh, it was fight scene. I misread that the first time. I thought it was scenes. I just read scenes, fight scenes from Avatar. I never cared about action scenes until Avatar did them so beautifully. My favorites are probably Azula and Aang on the aqueducts, the Blind Bandit scenes, and obviously the whole drill episode. This is besides the finale, of course. Yeah, the Agni Kai is outstanding. Honestly, I'm sad that got split up. Like, I understand they were cutting back and forth. There was a lot happening during that, but I would have liked to have just start to finish. The Agni Kai was amazing. I did read that one incorrectly, so I just read scenes. One of the scenes, and I talked to my kids about this, most of the Blue Spirit episode of Aang and Zuko getting away, him freeing Aang, the frogs coming out of his clothing, they're fighting off the guards together, and they kind of almost have a friendship moment at the end, but they don't. The way that the Zuko villain arc redemption thing, that's how it should be done. Hollywood wants to force these villain redemptions. Zuko is maybe the number one example of a villain arc to redemption. Everyone should do it that way. They had time to do it, so that's part of it. But I like I said, I misread the question. So one of my favorite scenes, when Iroh forgives Zuko at the end, I can't really watch that closely. I need to look away or at the ceiling. That's a very emotional scene, and it gets me every time. And pretty much the whole Emerald Island Players episode is just awesome. And it was such a great break in the middle of it. Like, you have this really big ending coming up, and then all of a sudden you get this goofy episode. It was a great way to recap the whole series in a fun way. It was really, they were poking fun at themselves. It was wonderful. Russ is heading to work. Thank you so much. That makes 53.50 right there. Thank you, sir. Enjoy work. Well, nobody enjoys work, but I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate the super chats very much, sir. Got a friend. Oh, this is a homeschool question. I love talking about these. A friend who just pulled his 4 kids out of school, homeschool, and I'm considering doing the same. Not school age yet. What's the top thing you wish you had known going into homeschooling your kids? So it's a huge. You good? You can't be seen from over there. I think here is where. Don't cross this line. What? Yeah, there's a lot of weird noises happening there. I don't know. It is what it is. Anyway, So yeah, homeschooling it's a huge change, and I'm an advocate for it. It's working out for us really well. I like it. My 16-year-old is standing here. She actually just started college because we were investigating dual enrollment to like see what are they, what are our options. And our local community college was like, well, we actually have a program where juniors who test into basic freshman level classes, if you can test into the freshman level algebra and English and whatever, then we have a program where you don't go to high school the last 2 years. You just do your associate stuff. And she qualified in this. So I feel like homeschool has worked. I feel like they're learning things. I like their character. So I'm an advocate of it, but it is a huge change. And I always tell new homeschoolers, one, your first year is pretty much shot, but that's okay because you got a lot of years. You're gonna feel things out. You're gonna find what works for you, and you're gonna waste a lot of time, but it's just time where you're learning what works for you guys and your kids, and what they respond best to, all that kind of thing. But the other thing that I would tell people that are new to homeschooling is don't run away from public school. Like, don't do it because you're afraid of public school and then you shun everything that public school does. We homeschool in a very traditional school fashion. We use Bob Jones University, BJU. It's video lessons, and then they read a textbook, and there's work questions that you work. The math is due 1 through 20 even. It's all very what you would recognize from public school. And I know a lot of homeschoolers basically shun everything that was done in public school. And it's like, not everything they were doing is bad. There are a lot of critiques that I would make about public school. There's a lot of things I think are wrong with it, but that doesn't mean that you do the opposite of every single thing. I think that's a terrible idea. And it'll get you into a bad place where you either hate it or you're turning your nose away at things that work. Can I get a hug? You going to bed? Where's he at? All right. I can hug my kids. You are not walking anywhere.
I'll go do it later.
Not putting weight on that foot. Me. Don't do it. I already told them. They know. They know you guys are there too. Come here. Let me hug. I love you. Hold on. Can you? Girl.
I'll come get a hug, baby.
On to you.
Okay. Just shut down the thing real quick so she can finish.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, go for it. What are some life-changing moments that I have experienced?
Sorry.
This is the most chaotic stream ever. They know I have a family. Everybody understands. The life change. So this is going to sound super campy, but really the biggest life changing moment that I have is honestly meeting my wife. We met in high school. We were dance partners. We were in show choir together. So we would go to retirement homes, and I wore a blue sequin vest and she wore a blue sequin dress, and we would dance to the Newsies, and there was a lot of box stepping. It was a lot of jazz hands. That is all real. That is 100% truthful. And we were dance partners because she was the tallest girl in class and I was the tallest boy. And we started talking a little bit, and unbeknownst to me, she was already thinking about the winter dance that was happening in December. This would be September when we met. And she locked on to me because she knew that she could get a date to the dance. So we started talking. I didn't know any of that. I just thought she was pretty. And I was like, cool, pretty girl's talking to me. So we started going on dates, and happily ever after that.
Random Film Talk said hi. He dropped in real fast.
Hey, Random. It's good to see you, sir. And thank you very much for the congrats on 60. But meeting her was honestly that is the big turning point in my life. I think I was calling myself agnostic at that point or whatever, and I was not very religious. And I met her family. I found Jesus because I was going to church with them. Her dad was a big influence on me. He was very big into taking care of his family, and I learned a lot from him as well. Hung out with him a lot. And then obviously now we have all these kids, we're together, and all of those things have happened. But really just the whole direction of my life changed when I started meeting her, and I was hanging out with her and her family and all of that. So that's a huge life-changing moment. I was going to say, obviously getting married, having kids, finding God, all that, but really all of that started because I met her and we were dance partners. So that is the number one biggest moment of my life right there. I would be in a totally different place if it weren't for that. Have I watched Arcane? As a matter of fact, I have, and I know when I'm doing a video on it, I'm doing a video on Arcane in the 4th week of September. Good God, that's coming up quick. Fortunately, I have a lot of script written. Arcane, if you guys haven't watched Arcane, 2nd season is coming up in November. And they said that during the, yeah, I didn't. Okay. So the 2nd season is coming up in November. The 1st season, some of the best television you might ever watch. And I know some people are not into animated shows, and there's a lot of stigma toward animation, which I think is crazy because I think animation is such a wonderful medium. You can do exactly what you want. The colors are exactly how you want them. You don't have to worry about actors not doing a good job or whatever. Arcane is some of the best writing that you will see. We just actually talked about this on the Echo Chamber because Despot started watching it too, because the 2nd season is coming up, and I think a lot of people are kind of hearing about it and they want to get caught up. And what we were talking about is it's difficult to watch that show and find a scene that you could get rid of. And that's the kind of efficiency that I'm talking about, where every scene is telling you something. Every line is telling you something, multiple things often. The environment is telling you things. Every second of that show has a purpose. The characters are fleshed out so well. They act so well. The relationships between them, the sister thing, the romances, everything about it is beautiful. And I can't wait for the next one to come out. And I am going to do a kind of season 1 recap slobber fest in the 4th week of September. I need to get that written. I'm going to have to cut that one short because I could go on for a long time. And it's just going to be, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be a fun, if I make it too long, it won't be a fun video because it'll just be going, it's amazing. It's amazing. Look at this scene. It's amazing. Look at this scene. It's amazing. It'd just be that for 3 hours. And that wouldn't be very fun. What are my thoughts on the overall quality of modern media, books, movies, TV movies, compared to 15 plus years ago? So my knee-jerk reaction to this when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, everything sucks. But then I thought about it and I thought, not everything sucks. I think that I would say that there are fewer great pieces of entertainment now than there were a while ago. But I don't think the number is that much lower. I think what it is streaming services, and the access to the ability to make entertainment has diluted the overall feeling of quality and entertainment. Things like Netflix, they'll make anything. They'll greenlight anything. They don't care. They will fund one season of any show. And if they take off, great. If they don't, they're canceled. They go for the quantity over quality method. A lot of streaming services are like this. I've made a couple of videos. Well, Dragon Age came up, and I'm sorry, that's not Dragon. That's BioWare. Assassin's Creed and the new Star Wars game is out, which looks terrible. It looks very bland, but it's big. And that is made by a company called Ubisoft, and they have a subscription service. And a guy that I'm going to be streaming with, 30 NSG, he was actually critiquing reacting to one of my videos, and he brought up that we're going to stream together, I think in a couple of weeks. He brought up that Ubisoft's whole model, the reason they have a subscription, the reason their games are so big and bloated feeling is because you feel like you're getting more game. I could play this game for 80 hours. Yeah, but would you want to, right? But there's a huge world. It's big. There's lots to do, even though none of it is interesting. And I think Netflix, a lot of streaming services are like that, where they just, they throw a ton at you so that way you feel like, well, I am paying $20 a month for Netflix, but look how many shows there are. But look how many of them are worth watching. So I don't know that I would say that the amount of great TV, books, all that is that much worse. I would say that there's more stuffing that you have to wade through now. So per capita, it feels like everything sucks. It feels like everything is trashier. It's just that publishing is easier. So there's more amateur books getting just thrown onto the market. Making television is easier. So there's not enough good writers to go around. So a lot of shows, Rings of Power being one of them, I'm actually working on a couple of videos, and I was doing some research about that. The guys that are writing Rings of Power have zero experience. They've none. Patrick McKay and JD Vance, or JD Payne. JD Vance is that's different. JD Payne and Patrick McKay, they have zero experience. They've worked in the industry, but they've never produced anything. They're uncredited for everything. But there's not enough great writers to go around. So you get a lot of crap. But then you also get something like Shogun, which is an excellent show. It's just that it's buried under a bunch of crap. So that's that's why it feels so bad. But there's good stuff out there. It sucks being a member of the audience right now because you have to look too hard. And that I think is really bad too, because nobody wants to watch 40 shows to find one that's good. And I think 15, 20 years ago, there was just so much more focus testing and there was so much more scrutiny, and your network channels, for example, just they wouldn't put a crappy show out. It was pretty rare. Only the best ones got made, and they were worked on heavily, and they had the best writers on them. And now, we need stuff. We need stuff to fill the streaming service. We need to be able to say that there's 1,000 shows you could watch, so you feel like you're getting good value for your subscription. So we'll just make anything, and that's But there's still good stuff out there. Still good books. Lots of good books right now. Especially, I'm a big proponent of Audible because you can listen to them, and there's a lot of good narrators out there too. What was the one that I was listening to? Oh, the Will White ones, and Travis Baldree reads those. He's a really good narrator, and he's a good author as well. He's written some cozy fantasy ones as well. Do I like comic books, and do I like Westerns? I don't dislike either of these things, but I'm not a huge fan. And I think with comics, there's only just so much time for hobbies, and comics is one of those that I always wanted to get into. I just don't have the time for it. When I was younger, somebody bought me a pack. I think I broke an arm, and somebody bought me a pack of comics, Thor comics. There was like 4 or 5 in them, and they were fun. I enjoyed reading them. It's just something that never grabbed me. It was never like, I don't know. It never sunk its teeth in me and got me like some, like comic people. I always thought it'd be cool to be a comic person. It just wasn't me. Same thing with Westerns. I like Westerns. I have enjoyed the Westerns that I've watched. Recently there was True Grit. There was one with Matt Damon. It was a remake. No, it wasn't Matt Damon. Anyway, remake. I've enjoyed the ones that I've seen, but I wouldn't call myself like a Western fan, but I don't dislike them either. A storm has canceled all of my plans, and I have to stay indoors. What is my go-to game or movie for this occasion that our whole family agrees upon? I have a couple, and I'm going to recommend them to you right now. Number 1, we play a game called Set, and this is a card game, and you don't have to read for this card game. It's just shapes. So there's different number of shapes, different color shapes. They have different texture, and then they're different shapes. And there's 3 varieties of each, and they all have to be the same, or they all have to be different. It's pretty easy to play, but you just visually look at it and you find 3 that go together. They follow the rules, and you just keep playing that. You call Set. That's a really fun game. There's another game called 5 Crowns. This is a card game, and this is another one that's super easy. You just make 3 of a kind or 3 in a row, straight flush. And every round you add another card to your hand, and by the time you're done, you have 13 cards in your hand, and you're just trying to make 3 of a kind. And it's a draw 1 card and use it or don't, put it down, next person. So I love games like 5 Crown, or Phase 10 is another one that we play, because you don't really have to think about it too much. And there's a little bit of strategy, but it's also a lot of luck. And so it's just very casual. It's a really great way to just talk with the kids while we're doing something with our hands, but we're not distracted by television. I have a hard time talking while watching television. I'm very distractible that way. We also like to play Quirkle. That's a fun game that I would recommend to everybody. Quirkle. Again, no reading necessary. It's just shapes, colored shapes. They're little tiles, and you have to lay. It's like Scrabble rules. You have to lay them out in a grid, but if you can run them across each other, they multiply, so you get more points that way. Quirkle's a very, very fun game. I like. Oh wait, we do have Labyrinth. We bought Pokemon flavored Labyrinth from the game store the other day, and that's a lot of fun. Again, really simple game, not much to it, but it's just a nice way to hang out with the kids. I like the idea of the big European board games, the Settlers of Catan, the Terra Mystica, the big. I like the idea of Villainous, the Disney one. We just don't have a lot of time for those, and we have a lot of little kids, so it's hard to get those going, and the little kids feel left out. So, yeah, Quirkle, 5 Crown, Phase 10, Set. These are ones that everybody can play, even if they're not very good at them. That's our go-to. Would I ever do a video essay about the wild discrepancies in the quality of Christian media? Absolutely. I think The Chosen is fantastic, and I wonder what its secret ingredient is that things like God's Not Dead or the Wingfeather books missed. So my kids would disagree on the Wingfeather books. They loved them, and I think they liked the show. I think I will tackle this topic because I'm going to do a video on Angel and their streaming service. So again, last year, if you'll recall, the Sound of Freedom, the big movie, kind of came out of nowhere, trounced a lot of other movies last July, sort of put Angel on the map, and they've made a few other movies since then. And what I like about them is their production quality is great. That's something that I think has been missing from Christian media for a long time. And it will be, I haven't watched Sound of Hope, I don't know why I skipped the Foster. I didn't know about it. And now I'm just going to wait until next May. I'll use it as part of the fundraiser, but I am going to watch that one and see if it's a little too campy. I think something that is an issue with Christian media is it's oftentimes too on the nose. And even Angel is guilty of this. Last year, they made one called The Shift, and it was like a sci-fi, but it was a sci-fi retelling of Job. And you know that it was the book of Job because not only does verses of Job appear on screen, people say out loud, this is just like Job. One character is writing what he remembers of Job. It was just a bit too obvious, and it got in the way of itself. And so while it looked beautiful, it had a great actor playing Satan. He did a great job as the villain. I thought that visually it was very nice looking, but I thought the writing fell apart because they were trying too hard to be very Christian story. And interestingly, since I just started reading the Silmarillion, and Tolkien was writing that letter to Milton Waldman, he actually talked about this. And he was talking about the reason that he wanted to make Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, he wanted this whole world because as an Englishman, he felt that Britain did not have good literature, and he was very sad about it. And he was writing to Waldman saying, we don't have, there's no English great writing. And he said, we have the Arthurian legends. And he said he does not favor those because, quote, for another and more important thing, it explicitly contains the Christian religion. For reasons which I will not elaborate, that seems to me fatal. Myth and fairy story must, as all art, reflect and contain in solution elements of moral and religious truth or error, but not explicit, not in the known form of the primary real world. I'm speaking, of course, of our present situation, not of ancient pagan pre-Christian days. And I think that Tolkien was absolutely correct on that. And I think that's a big hindrance to a lot of Christian media is they feel like they need to tell a gospel story with every single one of them, where I think you can read The Lord of the Rings and you can clearly see that the author of that story was a devout Catholic. It just comes through in his writing. I mean, the fact that I was just reading the beginning of it and he's got this creation story of the Iluvatar and this clearly Satan archetype, Melkor, wants power and attention for himself. He has vanity issues and he tries to destroy everything that has been made that is good. And it's like, that's pretty obvious, but it's not so on the nose. A lot of his themes and allegories are not so on the nose. Whereas I would say other Christian media, they try too hard a little bit. And so what I like about Angel Studios, other than The Shift, which I am critical of, is I think that they're upping the production quality, right? This isn't the old Kirk Cameron movies. This isn't Fireproof. This isn't War Room, where it's a little campy almost, and it almost feels unserious because of that. I like them. So yeah, I will be talking about that. I'll be talking about Angel as, just as a studio. They also have, why can't I think of the name now? What's the kids show?
Oh, Tuttle Twins.
Tuttle Twins. That's right. Tuttle Twins was a book. I won't lie to you guys. It's capitalist propaganda. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that it's not that. I mean, it absolutely is propaganda. It's heavy capitalist themes, teaching your kids about capitalism. And there's no reason to be dishonest about that. But it is also entertaining. And I think that is something that they're bringing, that Angel is really bringing, that nobody else has in the past. That my kids enjoy the Tuttle Twins because it's a fun show. It's not that they love the lessons in, how price floors create scarcity or whatever. Like, they're not watching it because of that. They're watching it because it's a fun kids show and they're just enjoying it. So they're doing a really good job of upping the production quality. And I think that that's really great. So yeah, I'll definitely be talking about that. Second question. So this one, how am I such a great person? An amazing father, Christian husband, content creator, and even more. Everything I've seen so far exemplifies how great of a man you are. God bless you, sir, and your family. So I don't want to sound fake. I'm not a great person. And I think that's very important. What you guys see is the highlight. You see the script that I've put together. You see I'm caffeinated when I'm on screen, so I bring a lot of energy. I'm trying to be a good person, but I just want to be careful that nobody ever thinks that I'm something that I'm not. I get testy with my kids. I get angry with my kids. I yell at them sometimes in a way that is not good. I get testy with my wife sometimes. I don't think about her when I should. Sometimes I don't show the greatest work ethic at work. I have bad days. That like I don't want to sound falsely humble, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but I really, the only good thing about me is Christ. I don't have any good. And that's just theologically true, that there's no one good. But I also just think it's important that we don't put each other on pedestals just because I edit myself to look good. That's why I look good on camera. And I think it's important that we try hard to be selfless every day. We try to be good people, and we try to, walk in the way of Christ and everything. But I don't want to pretend like I'm something that I'm not, because that's a way to lead to your downfall. Pride comes before the fall.
I don't know. We're all pretty proud of you.
Are you trying to hobble past me right now? You look like you're trying to. You want me to turn the camera off?
Yeah, please.
You shouldn't even be on that knee. That's bad. And this is the last question. And I'm gonna scan through. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Yeah. You're gonna tear that up some more. She tore her meniscus, and she doesn't want to believe that she's in pain, or that she doesn't want to believe it. Am I excited for Halloween this year? Hope you and your family have a wonderful time. Seem like a great father. Thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. We are excited for Halloween. So we take Halloween. We don't take it seriously in that, like, we decorate a bunch. Like, I don't get into the Halloween, like, blood and grave decorations, but we do take the costumes very seriously because our kids use them all year long. So we put a fair amount of money into it. I think we reserve usually about $100 or so per kid, and we'll order them from what's the name of that place you usually order the costumes from? Babe, what's the name of that place you usually order the costumes from? Yeah, Chasing Fireflies. That's the name of the company. And they make really high quality costumes. We've gone, in the past, you know how it is. You go to Walmart or Sam's or whatever, and you get these dress up dresses, and they tear apart pretty quickly. But Chasing Fireflies they use good fabric. They're high quality, and we like those. Because they have more than just what you're going to find at Walmart. So it's the same superheroes that every other kid is wearing. It's the same Disney princess that everybody else. They have a lot of different costumes, and they're really high quality. So we invest in those, and the kids, play around with them all year long. And then the younger kids obviously grow into them and everything. So that's, we get excited for that one. And we're fortunate. We live on a cul-de-sac, and we're fortunate that we know a lot of our neighbors, and we get along with a lot of our neighbors. So we will typically go as a big group. So oftentimes our neighbors have kids, and it'll be 20, 25 kids. We just herd them like cattle down the street around. You coming back? Come on. Just crutch on through here.
Can I not be a part of you?
No, you can't. You're gonna get made fun of. Did you see any more questions that you wanted me to answer? Should I scroll way up? That's my last one from the. I
think you covered it.
I did. Well, and it's also been a long time. I've taken up enough of your guys' time. Thank you so much. I have one more super chat. Just want to say thanks and love the comment. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the super chats, and I really appreciate, like I said, you guys spending time with me. Your time is it's not cheap. It's not free, and you only have a limited amount of it, and you chose to spend time with me, and I appreciate that very, very much. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And probably when we hit 100, we'll do it again. We'll do some more Q&A, and I've got some videos coming out next week about Rings of Power, and another video just about why, serving the audience is what you want to do as an entertainer. So thank you guys so much. Have a great night. And wait, hang on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.